Roger, not you again.
I knew you'd be glad to see me.
Roger, I've been telling you for a week. There's nothing more I can do without taking more tests.
Oh, no, no tests.
Why? They're painless.
I know, but I haven't had a chance to study for them yet.
Roger, this is a free clinic, and there are other people waiting.
Oh, come on, how about my high blood pressure and my hypertension?
I just told you, we can't do any more without taking more tests.
Okay. You can start with my pulse, here.
I took your pulse.
Oh, how about this hand?
Roger, really, this has gone far enough.
Far enough? Holding a wrist is your idea of far enough? Miss Clark, can I ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead.
How old are you?
22.
I thought so. I'm 16.
I
But do you know that I'm not your typical 16-year-old kid?
know. Well,
Really? Hey, I got a lot of maturity packed in this 16-year-old body.
well, Roger, as long as you're packed, why don't you take a trip?
Come in. Miss Thomas, hi. D. Roger?
No, he's not in from school yet.
Oh, Miss Thomas, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What's wrong with Raj?
Nothing. What makes you think there's something wrong with him?
Oh, I don't know. He's just not the same. He's moody, and you can't talk to him, and after school, he just splits.
That's right.
How do you know?
How do I know what?
What Dwayne just said.
Oh, because I heard him say it. See, I was sitting here only moments ago when the young lady was speaking. And when I was going to say my answer, I couldn't say it because Dwayne, I'll get it.
What's happening, everybody? Roger?
No.
Mrs. Thomas, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
What's wrong with Raj?
I don't know that there's anything wrong with him. Just because you and Dwayne haven't seen him for 1 or 2 days don't mean that there's something wrong with him.
Rabbit.
Hey, Rabbit. Hey, how you doing?
Gene, come here a minute.
Yes, Mr. Thomas?
Have you noticed anything wrong with Raj?
Mm-mm. Well, come to think of it, this morning I did see him putting chocolate syrup on his eggs. What's wrong with that? You know, Mrs. Thomas, I think that son of yours is in love. Mm-hmm.
I think the rabbit's right.
You do, huh?
Yeah, who would know more about love than a rabbit? Well, look how Raj is acting. He's walking around in a daze. He hasn't been to the soda shop in a week. He's not telling us where he's going. He must have a girlfriend.
But why wouldn't he tell us if he had a girlfriend, Rerun?
I don't know. Maybe there's something weird about her. Like she's ugly.
Ooh.
Okay, let's not jump to conclusions. When Roger comes home, we'll ask him. Now, you fellas feel like something to eat? I have a fresh pie in the kitchen.
I'll just have a little piece.
Good, I'll just have the rest of it.
Mama,
What, honey?
I may know what's wrong with Raj.
Well, speak up.
Well, Raj has been going to the free clinic after school every day this week.
Free clinic, how do you know?
I can't tell you, Mama.
What do you mean you can't tell me?
Look, Mama, before you yell at me, you should know that the Constitution of the United States says I have freedom not to speak as well as freedom to speak.
And the Constitution of the United States also says that I have the freedom to bear arms. And if you don't tell me what I want to know about Raj, I'm going to bare my arms right down to my bare hand and bare your behind.
You're right. The Constitution has a lot of faults. But all I can tell you, Mama, is that he's probably at the free clinic right this very moment.
How long have you known this?
All week. I didn't want to worry you. It could be nothing.
Hey, fellas, come in here.
Yes, Miss Thomas?
Did Roger tell you anything about going to a free clinic?
Not to me.
You know what, Miss Thomas?
What?
Raj said that some lady from the free clinic came to his health class last week to talk about hypertension and high blood pressure among blacks. And said if anybody thinks that he or she has the symptoms, they should come down to the clinic.
That's about when Raj started disappearing after school.
Exactly. I think.
You think Raj should still be at that clinic right now?
He's there.
Well, if you'd like to go down there, Mrs. Thomas, I got my car out front.
Thank you, Gene. Let's go.
Can I come?
No, you stay here and clean up the mess in the kitchen.
The mess is in the living room.
Now, what I'm trying to say is, I may be only 16 in age, but I'm 23 years in experience.
That's nice.
You see, my mom and dad got divorced when I was young. I've been the man of the house ever since. Bold, brave. Able to make snap judgments. Wise beyond my years. Yet patient with a young sister who has needed the hand of a male figure, quite often across her mouth.
Roger.
Look, Julie, I don't know how to say this, so I've written it down as a poem.
See, Roger, I'm busy.
Oh, no, listen, it'll only take a second. Listen to this. It's called Twilight Affair. I'm just 16, and what's worse, I've got a crush on a very old nurse.
Very old?
I'll explain it.
Oh, I'm sure.
But to me, she has youth. So let's face the truth. To be 22 is no curse.
Roger,
Yeah?
I think they've come for you.
You know, Dee was right, Mrs. Thomas. That boy is sick.
Come on, Mr. Twilight Affair.
The only possible way Dee could have known I'd gone to the clinic was if she had looked in my dresser drawer at my diary.
You keep a diary?
Well, it's more like a journal of little events in my life. It's for future use when I write my first screenplay.
I see. But how would you know whether she looked at it or not?
Oh, come on over here, Mama. I'll show you something. You can see where Dee pried the lock open.
Oh, she wouldn't pry open the lock.
See these marks?
She pried open the lock.
Ah, here it is. Proof positive.
Peanut butter.
That's right. Either Dee or Jimmy Carter has been reading my journal.
All right, Roger, you're right. Snooping is bad enough, but prying open someone's drawer is terrible. I'm gonna straighten out that little busybody right now.
Are you gonna spank her, Mama?
You can bet your life on that.
Oh, please don't do that.
And why not?
Because if you do that, she'll cry, then you'll feel awful, then you'll cry, then I'll come downstairs and say, please stop crying, everybody. Then you shout at me and say, it's all my fault.
This is true.
And besides, I got a better idea.
Wait a minute. You're not planning on playing a trick on her, are you?
Yes, I am.
Good.
Raj,
All right. After she reads this, she will be hooked.
If she reads it.
If she reads it, Mama, you know Dee, she'll read it.
You know, you're right again, Raj.
Mama, this whole story could make a great little movie.
Yeah. And I'd like to read it, too.
Yeah, I have to get a whole new journal to write it in.
The treat's on me. I'll get you a new one the first thing tomorrow.
Thank you, Mama.
But remember to put the new one someplace where your sister won't find it.
Hey, don't worry.
Mama.
Oh, up here, Dee.
I thought I heard you two up here. How come nobody said hello to me when you came home?
I had to get Roger right to bed.
You really sick, Raj?
I got a little headache and occasional lapse of memory.
Did Mama tell you I was the one who said you were at the clinic?
I don't remember.
And how did you know about that?
Gee, I don't remember either. I must be catching it from Raj. I'll get out of here.
Well, I gave her a chance to tell the truth.
This is gonna be fun. Wait here. Oh, come on. She's definitely here. Those are school books over there. She's not in the kitchen, so she gotta be upstairs.
She actually broke into your drawer and read your diary?
That's right.
Well, who ever heard of 11-year-old picking locks?
Are you kidding? When my brother Dewey was 11, he was driving a getaway car.
Was there anything in that journal about me?
There's something in there about all of us and everything we've ever done.
Everything?
What are you worried about?
See, Dee knows too much. That's why you guys have to help me teach her a lesson. And can I count on you?
Definitely.
Right on.
Good. Now remember, I got memory lapses, I'm seeing things, and I feel very weak.
Maybe we should come back when you're feeling better.
Rerun, that's what I wrote down in the journal.
All right.
Okay,
Are you sure she's gonna read it?
positive. Just give her a little time.
Oh, no. Oh, wow. I've got memory lapses, I'm seeing things, and I feel very weak. Oh, boy, Roger's really sick. I always wanted his room, but not this way.
Dee's been up there long enough. You guys ready?
Ready.
Get the door. Get the door.
Anybody home?
Rog, that you? Okay, I'll be right there. Hi, Raj.
Hi.
You all right?
Oh, yeah, why?
Oh, no reason. It's just that Rerun and Dwayne don't usually carry you home.
He's been acting funny, Dee. Is there anything wrong with him that you know about?
Well,
Is there?
how would I know?
Are you all right now, Rob?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. You can take me home now.
This is your home.
Of course. I recognize the wallpaper.
I think we better get Raj upstairs.
Oh, no. I can make it by myself.
Raj!
Yes, Mama?
We'll take care of him, Dee. We'll take care of him.
Bye, Roger.
Poor Raj. Hello, Daddy? This is Dee. Listen, Raj is very sick. Now, I don't know what it is. No, Mama doesn't know. Well, I can't tell her because I don't want her to worry. Huh? I don't care if you worry. Well, can you come over and help Raj? But don't tell Mama I called you because she gets mad at me when I tell you things I don't tell her. Yeah, well, I read it in his diary. It says he has some big word, hyper something, which means he has memory lapses, a weakness, and lately he's been seeing things. Can you help Raj? Okay, bye.
You think Dee fell for it?
Are you kidding? Did you see the look on her face when my knees buckled?
Raj, you got to write this down.
Yeah, man, this is gonna make a great story someday.
It's no time like the present.
What's that?
Well, since Dee found my old journal, I've started keeping a new one. She doesn't even know about this one. What time is it?
3:35.
3:35 Thursday. The plan is working.
All right. Right on.
Dee thinks I'm definitely sick and is very worried about me. I never thought she'd be this easy to fool. All right, come on. Let's hurry on down there and get started on it again. Anybody home?
Raj, I thought you were going to take a rest.
I did. How much sleep can a person take? 8 hours is plenty.
8 hours.
Would you like to go for a walk, Raj?
Yeah, some fresh air do you good.
Ah, fresh air. That's what I like best about living here in the Yukon.
Raj, maybe you shouldn't go.
You know, I am kind of tired. What's your name?
D.
D. And I'm Raj, sure. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yo, we gotta get going.
Okay.
Don't go, stay here.
No, we gotta go. Come on, Rerun.
Yeah, so long, Raj.
They said so long to you.
You're Raj.
Right. Well,
D.
D, I think I'm gonna go and get some milk.
Okay.
For our cat.
What cat? We don't have a cat.
We don't? Then what happened to our cat?
We never had a cat.
Then what's that in the bathtub playing with the pony?
Oh, brother.
You know, I am getting a little tired. I think I'll just turn in.
Say hi to the pony for me.
Okay, you're a nice little boy.
Hi, Dee. Yeah, where's Roger?
I think he's upstairs taking a bath with the pony.
What? Hey, Roger! Mama? Roger, come on down here, boy.
You want to tell him how I found out?
Don't worry.
Roger! Coming.
Dee, go upstairs. Let me talk to Roger alone for a minute.
All right, Daddy, but just a minute. I'm going upstairs now. You, Raj, are gonna stay down here and talk to Dad. Me, D, is going upstairs.
Right. Oh, by the way, would you mind making my bed? I was too weak to do it.
Okay.
Thank you. What's up, Daddy?
Roger, your sister seems to think you're not feeling well.
Oh.
Looking for your pony, Roger?
I just wanted to make sure that Dee couldn't hear me.
Uh-huh. Well, what is Dee gonna hear, Roger?
Well,
Well, hello, Mabel.
Shh, come on, Mama.
Bill, what's going on here?
Don't ask me.
My plan seems to be working perfectly. Only poor Daddy got caught in the middle. Dee called him up after she read my journal.
I see.
Yeah, I see, too.
You do?
Mm-hmm. I can see I got a completely crazy family here.
Poor Raj.
Boy, I don't believe this whole family. I mean, and you, Mabel. Especially you, of all people, playing this kind of a practical joke on your own daughter?
Our daughter needed a lesson. Now I'm going to call her down here and straighten out this mess. Dee!
Yes, Mama?
Come on down here, honey.
Well, that girl had me worried half to death.
Oh, thank you for your concern, Daddy.
Oh, thank you for your concern, Daddy. Well, you better not never do this again.
Yes.
Dee, we have something to tell you, honey.
No, Mom, I have something to tell you and Raj because I feel bad. Because he's so sick and I was so bad.
He ain't sick.
Yes, he is, Daddy. He has ponies in the bathtub and memory lapses and weakness. Raj, I broke into your drawer and I'm sorry. I read your journal and that's how I knew he was going to the clinic, Mama. And I was bad and I was wrong. And Raj, please get better.
Oh, it's all right, baby. It's all right. We knew you did it. Don't cry, honey.
I can't help it. I love Raj so much. And he's so sick. Take me!
Now, you see? Huh? You see what you did? Dee, I'm not sick. I'm not sick at all.
Yes, you are. You just forgot.
No, baby, he just pretended to be sick. He's really fine.
You're just saying that to make me feel good. I'm rotten and evil.
Uh-huh. Now, you see what playing a practical joke can do? You done got my little girl all upset. Come here, baby.
Roger, run upstairs and get your new journal and so you can prove to Dee that this whole thing was a terrible joke.
Okay, Mom. I will get it.
You see, sweetheart, he's okay. And he'll prove in his journal that we tricked you into believing that he was sick.
No, he won't.
Yes, he will.
Mama, it's not here.
It's gotta be there.
Not necessarily.
What's that?
That's the journal Roger's looking for. You knew it all the time, didn't you?
Yep. Good, wasn't I?
Now, you see what playing a practical joke can do, Mabel? You even got your own daughter playing practical jokes, too. Roger is up there trying to find a book that's down here, and everybody's all upset. I sure hope you learned something from this.
It's not here.
Well, keep on looking for it, Roger. You'll find it.
Bill.
Just a little practical joke, Mabel. Let me see it.
So Dee stuck it to you again, huh?
Yeah, she found this dumb book and really fooled us all. But it'll make a great ending to a movie someday.
She always gets away with murder.
Not this time. She was grounded for a week for breaking into my drawer.
Hey, listen. Why didn't you tell us in the first place you were going down there to see that nurse?
Because, well, she was too ugly. And I know how you guys would laugh at me if I wasn't with one of my usual foxes.
So why'd you do it?
A little charity case. If I didn't do it, who would? That poor girl probably never had a date in her whole life. I thought I'd try to bring a little sunshine into her dreary social life.
Hey, y'all.
Rabbit.
Hey, Rabbit.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey. Hey, Raj, you remember Julie, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Come on, baby. Let's go into the kitchen and defrost the fridge.
Man, I'm telling you, we can make a fortune selling this stuff. It's new and it's exciting.
Dwayne, there's nothing new or exciting about soap.
It isn't just soap. It's Blam, the most powerful soap in the universe. Yet kind to your hands.
Shouldn't we be discussing this in the kitchen, Raj?
Who told you it's the most powerful soap in the universe?
Mike Johnson's mother.
When?
When she sold it to me.
Well, you better use that soap to wash your face.
Why?
It's got sucker written all over it.
Well, let's get to the kitchen, Raj. Well, there must be a lot of other suckers out there then, because Mike's mother sold enough soap in 1 week to make a $50 down payment on a color TV.
$50?
And she sold a whole case to one person.
What would one person do with a whole case of soap?
Wash you twice.
Quiet, D. Hey, well, come on. How do we get in on the Blam scam?
Okay. To become an official Blam representative in your neighborhood, just write Blam. Post Office Box 749, Blam, Oklahoma. What do you say?
Call me in, Dwayne.
Need to?
It's a deal.
Hey.
Hey, now let's make it official. Let's eat to it.
Hey, man, maybe we can start taking orders tomorrow before we become official Blam representatives.
Oh, no, I got soccer practice tomorrow.
I'll get it. Hello? Yes, this is D. Thomas. Who wants to know? Judy. Oh, hi, Judy. You did? Great. Where are you going to stay? Uh-huh. Okay, bye.
Who was that?
Judy Crane, a friend of mine.
Judy Crane. I guess I've never met her.
You haven't. She's one of my pen pals.
Oh. Which one? The one from Nebraska or the one from New Jersey?
The one from jail.
Jail?
Yeah, jail.
I didn't know you had a pen pal in jail.
I don't anymore. She just got out. She's on her way over.
Why is she on her way over here?
Beats me. Maybe it was something I said in my letters.
Like what?
Like after you get out of jail, you can come live with us.
What? Are you crazy? Have you gone nuts?
What's happening?
Oh, nothing. Dee just invited an ex-convict to come live with us.
Wow, Dino's an ex-con?
Yeah, one of her closest friends.
Boy, those fifth graders are getting tougher every year.
She's not in the 5th grade.
Then why is she writing to you?
She's my pen pal. I found her name on the back of a magazine. I thought it would be nice to write to a shut-in.
Dee, there's a big difference between a shut-in and a locked-in.
What did she do anyway?
She took some money that didn't belong to her.
Wow, this is exciting. Raj, wait till you tell everybody you got a criminal living here.
Oh, yeah. You think that's exciting? Wait till I tell my mama we got a criminal living here.
Mama will understand.
Have you lost your mind, child?
But Mama, Judy needs a place to stay.
And so will you, pulling a stunt like this.
I'm surprised at you, Mama. I bet Coretta King would take her in.
Well, then there's no problem. Just call Mrs. King and tell her to get an extra bed ready.
But Mama, she's got nowhere else to go. And besides, she only wants to sleep over one night.
A night? Me spend a night in this house with an ex-convict over my dead body? Just a figure of speech.
She was only arrested for robbery and she paid for it.
Uh-huh, yeah, but with whose money?
Raj,
Yes.
you're getting on my nerves.
And you're getting on my nerves bringing ex-convicts in here to live and you don't know where
Well,
she
if you
what she
don't
did
like it, you get out.
I'm like, will you two stop?
Mama, please let us stay over one night. I promised her.
Well, since you gave your word, all right. I'll board us away so she can stay in his room. But for only one night.
Thanks, Mama.
Well, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go and hide my valuables. I advise you to do the same.
Raj, if I'm not afraid of her, why should you be?
You can't blame Roger for being concerned, Dee. We really don't know anything about this Judy.
There's nothing to know. She committed a tiny crime, went to jail, and is a good, nice, normal person now.
Oh, that's probably her now.
I better answer it before she breaks in.
What?
Dee?
Judy?
Hi, pen pal. Oh, you even cuter than I thought you'd be.
Everybody, this is my friend Judy Crane.
Hi.
This is my brother Raj.
Hello, Roger. It's nice to meet you.
Yes, it is.
And this is my mama.
Hello,
Mr.
Judy.
Thomas. Listen, thanks for letting me sleep over. Dee told me you were special.
This is true.
Well, are you hungry?
I'm starved.
Well, then go in the kitchen and help yourself.
Just to the food.
That boy is tacky. Judy, I'm gonna fix you some good food to put in your stomach.
Thank you.
Mama, you're the best mom in the whole world.
Oh, stop.
Oh. That's nice. You have a real tight family, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
You still kiss your mama?
Sure. But only because she's a close relative.
Oh, I understand.
I mean, you see, I don't just go around kissing folks.
Of course not. Of course not.
You see, basically, I'm a man of the streets.
Yeah, I see.
See, I know the streets. And the streets know me.
Yeah. It's rough out there.
Worse than that. It's rough out there. It's a jungle. Hard and tough. As a matter of fact, that's what they call me. Hard and tough. Oh.
Are you all right, hard and tough?
I'm all right.
Well, then help Judy upstairs with her bags.
Hello, Lou. Hey, Hey, baby, it's me. Yeah, safe and sound. Now, I'm at the Thomas' house with my little pen pal. Everything worked perfectly. Listen, can you pick me up tomorrow? 10 o'clock is good. Really, baby, I'm fine. No problems at all. The warden probably doesn't even know I've escaped yet. Bye.
Morning.
What?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I was only trying to say good morning.
You know, in prison, people don't often walk into a room without clanging keys. You know what I mean?
No. Are you ready for breakfast?
You don't have to bother, Miss Thomas. I mean, you've been too nice already.
It's no bother.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, Dee.
Are you going to work today, Mama?
You want to eat tomorrow? Well,
I just wanted to make sure that you leave me money for the movies before you go.
how much you need?
$2.
$2 for a movie?
No, it's $1 for the movie, 50 cents for the candy bar, and 50 cents for the large soda.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can get the 50-cent bar of candy on the way to the movies for a dime, and then you can drink water if you get thirsty, and here's $1.50, and bring me change.
Do you want to go to the movies with me, Judy?
Oh, no, thanks, Dee. I'll be leaving this morning.
Good morning.
What are you wearing, Raj?
My soccer uniform. What does it look like?
It looks like somebody tried to dress a chair.
Hello, Roger.
Good morning, Judy.
What's the matter with you?
Oh, nothing, Mama. Why?
You look like you're half asleep.
I had a bad night. Couldn't keep my eyes closed. Know what I mean, Mama? I couldn't shut my eyes 1 minute last night.
Something wrong with your eye, Raj?
No.
Well, then there's something wrong with your neck, and your knees aren't so hot either.
Hey, come on. Let's get the rest of the food. Big mouth.
I just realized how rude it was of me to leave you here all alone in a room with my things. I mean by yourself. I mean in the room with no one to talk to. So, how are you?
Roger, if you want to go in the kitchen, I promise you I won't take anything out of your living room.
Is that why you thought I came in here to check? Judy.
Judy. I told you twice, and I'm only going to tell you once more. Go fish.
Dee, you know, I really feel guilty about you staying home for me. Why don't you go over to your friend's house like you do every Saturday morning?
You remembered that from my letters?
Sure. Look, I remember everything you wrote me. Your letters were the only bright spot of my day. Oh, I'll get it. It's probably nobody.
Hey, baby.
Look how friendly nobody is.
Dee, this is my boyfriend, Lou.
Well, how come you didn't tell us he was coming over?
Well, I just didn't know how your mother would feel about me entertaining my friends here. Besides, I thought I'd be alone this morning.
Yeah, you know how it is when a boyfriend and a girlfriend haven't seen each other for a long time, huh?
Yeah, I know. You can kiss, but don't get crazy.
I think we've kissed enough for the time being.
Yeah. Well, hey, we better get going, Judy. It's a long way to Arizona. Where are your things?
Oh, they're upstairs.
Judy, that suitcase of yours is broken, but you can borrow Roger's and he won't mind.
I don't need it.
Well, why not? Since yours is broken, it'll come in handy. Where is it, honey?
Upstairs. Come on.
Do you think it's broken?
Oh, I just twisted the...
Man, you like you were half asleep out there.
I was. I couldn't sleep all night worrying about Judy floating around this house.
All right, kids, up against the wall. Frisk him.
Listen, officer, I live here and I can prove it. What's going on?
You know this girl?
Yeah, that's Judy Crane. She's staying with us.
That was easy. So you admit you're harboring an escaped criminal.
Escape? She escaped?
That's right, she escaped and we followed her boyfriend here.
Well, there's no one here now.
Who's there? Hold it! Hold it! Who's that?
It's Raj.
And who's the other guy?
I don't know.
Shh! I'll find out. Oh, gee. It's the cops.
No. The cops? Why would it be the cops? Why would the cops be here? Unless you or Judy or you and Judy. Anybody want a sandwich?
Stay where you are.
Staying.
Dee, can you hear me? Are you all right?
I'm okay, but I'm unhappy with my present company.
Hey, we have this kid up here, so you cops don't do anything stupid.
All right, Bonner, all right. Just calm down, relax. Hey, look, you take the back door and you cover the front.
Well, who is this Bonner anyway?
He's also an ex-convict and Judy Crane's boyfriend.
Well, get him out of my house.
I'm trying.
Judy, will you tell me what's happening? Because I'm getting fed up with the whole thing.
Dee, look, I wasn't released from that prison farm. I escaped.
Not nice.
I know. But I only came to your house because I thought nobody would look for me here.
The police were probably watching me the whole time.
That's not easy. You don't look all that wonderful.
Hey, you watch your mouth.
Oh, please.
Maybe they let Dee go if we gave him another hostage. Ask him if they'll take a teenage boy instead.
Well, that's awful brave of you, son.
Thank you, sir. Good luck, Dwayne.
Oh, look, officer, it's my sister. I'll go up there.
No, please.
All right, we're ready. I got my list of demands.
Okay, look, this may be it. Okay, Bonner. What do you want?
All right, first I want you to fill up the gas tank on my getaway car.
What getaway car?
The one I rented. It's across the street.
You rented a getaway car?
Yeah. It's a bright red convertible with mag wheels and those little cotton dice that hang from the rearview mirrors, you know? It's something else.
That's our getaway car. A bright red convertible.
It's a beauty, Judy.
And it's easy to spot, dummy.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be so easy to spot.
What do you mean?
Go look.
It's gone.
He parked it in a tollway zone.
How could I do that?
You're stupid.
I get a ticket, too. I've never gotten a ticket before. Darn.
You're not very good at this, are you?
Will you leave me alone?
Don't yell at her.
Let him yell. He needs the outlet.
Okay, sir. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to run out back, climb up a telephone pole, and jump onto the roof.
And be back down here in 1 second with the roof and the second floor.
All right, Bonner. Let's hear it.
All right, I'm gonna need another getaway car. Something in the dark red. Doesn't have to be brand new.
What about food?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna need enough food to last a couple of days.
Hamburgers would be good.
Make that about 10 hamburgers.
Hold the ketchup heavy on the relish.
Hold the ketchup on 2 of them.
3 of them.
I'll make it 3 of them.
And a grape soda.
And a grape soda.
Oh, and better get some napkins.
Will you let me handle this? And we're gonna need some napkins, too. And about $10,000 in cash.
Now, how long do you think that'll last?
You better make that 20.
Small bills.
Wait a minute, wait. Dee, are you planning on going with us?
Heck no. I just hate to see anything done dumb.
Who are you calling dumb?
You.
Oh.
And you're dumb too, Judy.
Oh, wait a second, young lady.
Why did you escape? In your letter, you said you only had 6 more months to go on that honor farm, and then you'd be done.
Well, Dee, 6 months is a long time, and I couldn't stand it.
Well, you should have stood it. You did something wrong, and you had to pay for it. Now you're even in more trouble, and you have to spend more time there.
Come on down now, Bonner.
Will you be quiet? I'm talking.
Did you hear that? I think she got the situation under control.
Are you kidding? She's up there alone with 2 convicts.
Oh, they'll be all right.
Now, if I understand it, Lou. As long as you're not holding me up here against my will, the cops won't want you for anything. And if you go back to the honor farm, Judy, you'll be out of there in a year or so.
Yeah, but I'd really miss her. I mean, gee whiz.
Listen, Dee, I couldn't stand being cooped up for another year.
Well, that's too bad. It's better to be cooped up for a year than messed up for the rest of your life. We're coming down now. It was only a joke. I'm fine.
Hey, Dee. Listen, girl, you still gonna write me?
Sure. Look at all I've got to tell you about.
Hey, it was all a joke. Just a big joke.
You're the joke.
Last one down is a rotten egg.
Hello, Roger.
Oh, hi, Mama.
Hey, what happened?
You mean to my knee?
Of course I mean to your knee. What else?
What else? Well, what happened to my knee is I injured it during soccer. What happened else is Judy's friend came over, and I think you better sit down for this one.
I don't have to sit down for nothing. Now, tell me about Judy's friend.
And the police?
The police?
Police.
I think I better sit down for this.
But first of all, look, I want you to know that everything is all right, and Dee is all right.
Dee?
Well, he didn't really hold her hostage.
Hostage?
I mean, you know, I wouldn't let any harm come to her.
Harm?
Oh, I'll get her.
I think you better.
Hi, Mrs. Thomas.
Oh, rerun.
Did you hear about me risking my life for D?
Risking your...
Yeah, I was gonna throw myself through the roof. But it wasn't necessary. Don't bother with any thanks, though. Dee's my friend. Bye.
But rerun, what are you...
Hi, Miss Thomas. Did Raj tell you how I was going to give myself up for D with the kidnappers?
Kidnappers?
Yeah, but luckily it all worked out without even one shot being fired.
Shot fired?
It's all clean now, Miss Thomas. Bye-bye.
No,
See you later, Miss Thomas.
come back here, Blaine. What in the world's going on around here?
Here she is, Mama.
Hi, Mom.
Oh, baby, are you all right?
Sure. Nothing happened, really. Just that Judy's boyfriend showed up, and they kept me up in Roger's room. And they threatened to kidnap me if the police didn't give them $20,000, 10 hamburgers, 3 no ketchup heavy on the road. But they gave up, and Judy went back to jail because she was never released. She escaped. And they let her boyfriend go because he never really meant to take me to Arizona anyway.
Arizona?
Yeah. How'd your day go?
But, Mama, he was just making a lot of noise. He wasn't a bad guy at all.
D, if you ever ask
I know. No more invitations to strangers to sleep over or visit.
Anything good on TV tonight?
Yeah, Mama, this is Lou.
Lou who?
Lou Bonner. He lives 100 miles away and he doesn't have a car. I didn't think you'd mind.
He parked his car in a tollway zone. Can you imagine parking a getaway car in a tollway zone?
That's a kidnapping, police guns, kidnapping my baby. Get out of here. Get out of my house.
It was one of those mornings where the sun seemed to hesitate, peeking over the horizon in timid streaks of gold and pink, as if unsure whether to fully illuminate the world or let the shadows linger a while longer, and Dwayne felt that hesitation as he rubbed his eyes, stretched his arms wide, and yawned in the cramped living room of his small apartment above the corner diner where he worked, the one with peeling green paint on the doorframe and the faint smell of grease that seemed to seep into every crevice. The radio in the kitchen crackled with a morning talk show host's monotone rambling about the latest city gossip, but Dwayne barely registered it, lost in a mental fog of tasks and regrets, the kind that always seemed to arrive uninvited, particularly on Mondays, and he shuffled to the window, pulling back the thin curtain to peek at the street below, where a couple of early commuters huddled under their coats, clutching coffee cups that steamed like tiny clouds, the scent of pastries drifting up from the bakery 2 blocks down, mingling with the exhaust of passing cars, a combination both comforting and suffocating, the way life often is when it refuses to slow down long enough for anyone to catch their breath. He let his gaze wander, noticing the familiar faces of the neighborhood, the mailman with his perpetually crooked cap, Mrs. Henderson dragging her poodle along the cracked sidewalk, a group of teenagers skateboarding with reckless abandon despite the frosty morning, and in that routine, Wayne felt the weight of predictability pressing on his shoulders, an invisible hand reminding him that every day felt like a rerun, an endless cycle where good intentions were often swallowed by circumstance, a truth he had been painfully aware of since high school, a truth that made him question whether being the nice guy was really worth the effort, especially when it seemed like the world rewarded the loud, the cunning, and the shameless, yet here he was, clutching a mug of lukewarm coffee, determined to try anyway, to navigate the chaos with some semblance of decency, which, ironically, sometimes felt like the loneliest choice in a city that thrived on sharp elbows and quick compromises. As he sipped, he reflected on the previous week's fiasco at the diner, a minor disaster that had somehow spiraled into what his co-workers were now jokingly referring to as the Great Syrup Spill of '85, though it had happened only last Thursday. He remembered the sticky mess on the linoleum floor, the flustered customers, and the look on his boss's face, equal parts exasperation and amusement, and he couldn't help but smile ruefully at how every small attempt to do the right thing seemed to backfire, leaving him tangled in the aftermath like a cat caught in yarn. But unlike a cat, he didn't land on his feet with grace, only with bruised pride and a renewed sense of caution, a lesson in humility that he hadn't asked for but couldn't escape. Dwayne's thoughts were interrupted by the sharp ring of his cell phone, the screen lighting up with the name of his best friend, Marcus, whose enthusiasm was inversely proportional to his sense of timing, and sure enough, when Dwayne answered, Marcus's voice erupted with the kind of energy that made Dwayne feel simultaneously alive and slightly alarmed. "Dwayne, buddy, you will not believe the chaos going down at the old factory site. You've got to come see this." Dwayne rubbed his forehead, trying to brace himself for whatever narrative twist Marcus had conjured this time, because with Marcus, chaos was never small, and seeing it often involved being dragged into situations that tested every ounce of patience he had, a commodity that was already running low this morning. "Marcus," he said slowly, trying to inject calm into his tone, "I just got to work, and honestly, no excuses." Marcus interrupted, voice crackling with urgency. "It's epic. I'm talking big trucks, fire alarms, and maybe even a cameo by Officer Jenkins. You have to come." Dwayne sighed, glancing at the clock. He had 20 minutes before he was officially on the clock, a window that might be enough to witness Marcus's latest disaster, or contribute to it, depending on how one looked at the situation, and against his better judgment, curiosity nudged him forward, that old, stubborn part of him that refused to let life pass by unnoticed, especially when there was the faintest possibility that something extraordinary, or at least laughably ridiculous, was about to happen. He threw on a jacket over his hoodie, grabbed his keys, and slipped out into the crisp morning air, the kind that tingled against his cheeks and reminded him that winter was settling in, a reminder that some things were inevitable, just like certain friends, like Marcus, who refused to be ignored, and like life itself, which had a funny way of testing his resolve exactly when he felt least equipped to handle it. By the time he reached the corner where Marcus was waiting, the scene unfolded like a bad sitcom set in real life. The old factory, long abandoned and rumored to be haunted by various childhood myths, had become the unlikely stage for a neighborhood spectacle, trucks parked haphazardly, cones strewn across the cracked asphalt, and a small crowd of curious onlookers gathering despite the chill, their breath visible in the air, swirling in ghostly patterns that added an almost cinematic quality to the otherwise chaotic tableau. Marcus, waving energetically, pointed toward a delivery van teetering precariously on the edge of the lot, and Dwayne felt a familiar pang of dread mixed with anticipation, the same mixture he experienced every time he allowed himself to be pulled into Marcus's schemes. And yet, despite the warning bells clanging in his mind, he walked forward, steps cautious, senses alert, fully aware that being the nice guy meant showing up, even when logic screamed otherwise, even when the outcome seemed destined for embarrassment or disaster. The van tipped slightly, eliciting gasps from the crowd, and Dwayne's heart skipped a beat, not out of fear for himself, but because he instinctively knew that someone would have to act fast to prevent a calamity, and more often than not, it would fall on him, the reluctant hero, the man whose intentions were good, if not always appreciated, and he took a step closer, calculating angles and imagining outcomes, while Marcus, oblivious to the gravity, continued narrating the scene in exaggerated tones, gesturing wildly and drawing the attention of everyone within earshot. Look at this. If that van goes down, it's going to take half the lot with it. And maybe a vending machine. Oh man, the drama." Dwayne inhaled, exhaled, and then moved decisively, positioning himself near the van's unstable edge, hands outstretched, mind racing with contingencies, aware that while Marcus thrived on spectacle, Dwayne thrived on finding solutions, quiet, steady, often unnoticed solutions, and in that quiet confidence lay the paradox of his life. The nice guys, those who calculated, considered, and cared, often finished last in the applause and recognition, yet somehow, it was the right thing to do, the only thing to do, and as he grasped the side of the van, feeling the weight shift beneath his hands, the crowd holding its collective breath, Dwayne couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, there was a hidden satisfaction in knowing that he was the one preventing disaster, even if nobody ever gave him credit, even if Marcus was already planning the story he would tell later, embellishing every detail until it seemed like Dwayne had performed some heroic feat rather than simply doing what had to be done. And as the van slowly settled back onto solid ground, tilting no further, Dwayne let out a shaky laugh, the adrenaline mixing with relief, and Marcus clapped him on the back so hard it nearly sent him stumbling forward, eyes wide with excitement. "See, Dwayne? That's what I'm talking about. Epic save. You're a legend. Dwayne chuckled, brushing himself off, knowing full well that in a few hours, the tale would morph into a neighborhood legend, exaggerated and embellished, and in a way, it didn't matter, because he had acted with integrity, had made a difference, even in the smallest, unnoticed ways, and that, he decided, was enough for now, even if the world was more impressed by spectacle than substance, because for Dwayne, being a nice guy was not about applause, it was about doing right by others, even when it meant finishing last in the eyes of everyone else. And as the crowd dispersed, leaving the crisp morning air to reclaim its quiet dominance over the lot, Dwayne and Marcus walked back toward the street, slipping past the baker setting up for the day, the smell of fresh bread now mingling with the lingering scent of tire rubber and exhaust, and Dwayne allowed himself a brief smile, a moment of satisfaction that perhaps the world could be chaotic, unpredictable, and sometimes unfair, but in the little corners of life where he chose to show up, there was still room for decency, for courage, and for a quiet kind of heroism, the kind that might never make headlines but would always make a difference where it counted, and he realized, not for the first time, that maybe finishing last wasn't the worst fate after all, because the world needed nice guys, even if they never knew the applause they deserved. The morning carried on with a deceptive calm, the kind that always preceded some minor catastrophe in Dwayne's life, and as he walked alongside Marcus toward the diner, the brisk air filling his lungs with that biting winter chill, he reflected on how strange it was that the world could feel both vast and claustrophobic at the same time, every street and alley familiar yet hiding surprises that only Marcus seemed capable of uncovering. Marcus, who had already launched into another animated retelling of the van incident, complete with sound effects and exaggerated hand gestures, punctuating each sentence with emphatic pauses that drew curious glances from passers-by, and Dwayne, ever the observer, found himself alternating between amusement and exasperation, thinking that if there were a prize for patience, he might finally be a contender today, though he knew that Marcus had a talent for dragging him into situations that tested the limits of human endurance, a talent that seemed almost supernatural in its consistency, and yet, despite knowing the probable chaos that awaited, he could not resist the pull, the magnetic draw of friendship that demanded presence even when reason advised restraint. As they approached the diner, the familiar neon sign flickered lazily, the glow illuminating the cracked sidewalk and casting long shadows that danced along the brick walls, a reminder that some things never changed, that some places held onto their imperfections as stubbornly as people clung to their routines, and for a moment, Dwayne allowed himself to revel in the ordinary, the comforting hum of refrigerators, the sizzle of eggs on a grill, the chatter of early customers who had settled into their morning rituals, unaware that life outside these walls often demanded heroics disguised as mundane choices. The bell above the door jingled as they entered, the scent of frying bacon and brewed coffee wrapping around Dwayne like an old, familiar blanket, and he exchanged nods with the regulars, the kind of silent acknowledgement that spoke volumes without words, a small testament to the unnoticed connections that anchored him to this little corner of the city. He made his way behind the counter, mechanically washing his hands while Marcus leaned on the edge, eyes scanning the menu, a grin playing on his face as if plotting his next misadventure, and Dwayne could not help but notice the contrast between them, Marcus living life as if every moment demanded performance and spectacle, Dwayne moving through the same moments with careful consideration, yet somehow, they balanced each other, two halves of a chaotic whole, perpetually out of sync yet inseparably linked by shared history and loyalty, a bond that had weathered high school embarrassments, awkward dates, family misunderstandings, and the endless parade of small-town dramas that life seemed determined to throw their way. By mid-morning, the diner was humming with energy, the rush of early patrons giving way to the lull that always tempted Dwayne to breathe a little easier, though his mind rarely allowed it. He was already anticipating what would inevitably go wrong next, a pattern he could predict as surely as sunrise, and as he flipped pancakes for a table of regulars who greeted him with cheery familiarity, he heard the first hints of trouble in the form of a commotion outside, a cluster of people gathering near the parking lot, some gesturing wildly, others whispering in urgent tones, and he felt that familiar twinge of responsibility, the one that insisted he investigate, even when every fiber of his body screamed for a calm, uneventful shift, the kind he rarely got but secretly longed for. Peering through the window, he caught sight of a small, battered car wedged awkwardly against the curb, tires spinning uselessly in the icy residue that had formed overnight, and a young woman flailing at the steering wheel, clearly unfamiliar with winter driving, her frustration audible even from inside the diner, a mixture of anger, embarrassment, and desperation, the classic combination that drew Dwayne's attention like a magnet. He sighed, muttering under his breath about how no good deed ever went unnoticed by the universe, and he grabbed his coat, exchanging a quick glance with Marcus, who had already recognized the scene as a prime opportunity for narrative embellishment, eyes wide with anticipation. "Oh, Dwayne, you have to see this classic winter fiasco." Dwayne's lips twitched in a half-smile, half-grimace, and he pushed the door open, the cold air rushing in to greet him as if reminding him that comfort was always temporary, that life's little challenges demanded attention, and that being a nice guy meant sometimes freezing in sub-zero temperatures to untangle someone else's misfortune. He approached the car carefully, hands raised in a gesture meant to calm both the driver and any onlookers, offering soft, reassuring words while simultaneously analyzing the angles, calculating leverage points, and considering the safest way to extricate the vehicle without causing damage or injury, a process he had perfected over years of accidental mentorship to strangers, friends, and hapless co-workers alike. The young woman's eyes met his, wide and panicked, and for a brief moment, Dwayne saw reflected in her gaze the same fear and uncertainty that he often felt when confronted with life's unexpected challenges, a fleeting connection that reminded him that sometimes, even the smallest acts of kindness created ripples far beyond immediate perception. With careful coordination, he guided her through the necessary maneuvers, offering step-by-step instructions with patience he didn't know he possessed, watching as her tension slowly gave way to tentative confidence, and when the car finally slid safely back onto the street, no harm done, she let out a breathless laugh, the kind that shook off embarrassment and replaced it with gratitude, and Dwayne nodded, the corners of his mouth lifting in that quiet, understated satisfaction that came from knowing he had done right, even if no one else was watching, even if Marcus was already narrating the scene to the crowd of curious onlookers in exaggerated tones. And there you have it. Another hero emerges from obscurity. Dwayne saves the day again. Dwayne chuckled quietly, shaking his head as he turned back toward the diner, feeling the familiar tug of routine calling him back to work, but also sensing that the morning had set a precedent, a reminder that chaos was rarely confined to any single location, that life had a way of intruding in ways that demanded action, empathy, and occasionally, a stubborn refusal to prioritize comfort over responsibility. Inside, the diner's warmth enveloped him again, and he resumed his duties, plates clattering, coffee brewing, customers chatting, while Marcus took up his usual position at the counter, already concocting an elaborate recounting of the morning's events for anyone willing to listen, embellishing Dwayne's quiet heroics into a narrative fit for local legend, a spectacle that would inevitably grow with each retelling. Much to Dwayne's bemusement, he listened half-heartedly, focusing instead on the rhythm of work, the small victories that often went unnoticed, the way a perfectly cooked omelette or a cup of coffee served just right could bring satisfaction to someone else's morning, a simple, unglamorous kind of triumph that, though invisible to most, grounded him in purpose, a counterbalance to the unpredictability that Marcus thrived on. By lunchtime, the diner was in full swing, the clatter of dishes and hum of conversation creating a steady background noise that Dwayne found oddly comforting, the kind of auditory cocoon that allowed him to organize his thoughts even amid chaos. And as he served a table of teenagers who argued over the merits of different burger toppings, he noticed a familiar figure slipping in through the door. Someone whose presence always seemed to amplify the underlying tension of the diner, a rival of sorts from past neighborhood escapades, whose sharp words and sly grin suggested that trouble was not far behind, and Dwayne felt a familiar stirring of apprehension mixed with resolve, knowing that being a nice guy didn't just mean helping strangers or stabilizing vehicles in icy lots. It also meant navigating personal dynamics with care, tact, and sometimes an almost supernatural patience, qualities that were tested more often than they were rewarded. Yet he had learned long ago that the measure of a person was not in applause or recognition but in the quiet constancy of integrity maintained even when it was inconvenient, uncomfortable, or invisible to the world at large. The afternoon unfolded with a series of minor incidents, from spilled drinks to misplaced orders, each handled with careful precision by Dwayne, whose calm demeanor contrasted sharply with Marcus's theatrical commentary, yet somehow, their combined presence created a rhythm, a balance between spectacle and stability, chaos and order, that defined the diner and, in many ways, the neighborhood itself, a microcosm of life where roles were fluid, expectations fragile, and the line between triumph and disaster remarkably thin, and Dwayne, ever the steady hand, continued to navigate these waters with a mixture of patience, humor, and quiet pride, fully aware that the world may never acknowledge their effort, yet unshakably convinced that the right thing was always worth doing, a philosophy that, while rarely glamorous, provided him with a compass in a city that often lost its way in noise, haste, and self-interest. And by the time the evening approached, with shadows lengthening across the street and the diner beginning to empty, he felt the satisfaction of a day lived with intention, a series of small victories that, though unheralded, formed the invisible scaffolding of a life quietly well lived, and as he wiped down the counters, glanced at Marcus recounting the day's events to anyone within earshot, and prepared to close up for the night, Dwayne allowed himself a rare moment of reflection, understanding that being a nice guy in a world that rewarded flesh over substance often meant finishing last, yet he also realized that last place in the eyes of the crowd did not equate to failure, for in the small acts of integrity, in the quiet interventions that prevented harm, in the unnoticed efforts that stabilized a chaotic world, he had found a measure of fulfillment that applause could never match, a knowledge that he had made a difference, however modest, and that in itself was a victory worth savoring. The diner finally emptied, leaving behind the faint aroma of coffee, syrup, and fried eggs mingling with the residual warmth that seemed to cling to the linoleum floors and cracked vinyl booths, and Dwayne took a deep breath, savoring the rare quiet that followed the day's small dramas, though he knew better than to assume it would last, because in his life, calm was often only the prelude to chaos, and he could feel it coming even before Marcus, who had not yet given up on narrating the day to anyone within earshot, leaned against the counter with that sly grin, eyes twinkling as if he already knew what the evening had in store. Dwayne wiped down the last table, stacking chairs with practiced precision, the routine movements grounding him, a small ritual of order in a world that often seemed determined to defy it, and he felt a mixture of fatigue and satisfaction, the kind that settles into your bones after a day of being useful in ways large and small, though he also recognized that the universe had a peculiar sense of humor, always ready to tip the balance just as he thought he had gained a foothold, and sure enough, that sense of humor manifested almost immediately in the form of the old neighborhood troublemaker, Ricky, who swaggered in through the diner's door with his signature leather jacket, smirk firmly in place, as if daring the universe, and Dwayne, to challenge him, Ricky, whose reputation for stirring trouble was matched only by his uncanny ability to sleep through consequences unnoticed, raised an eyebrow at the empty diner and called out in a voice designed to draw attention, well, Dwayne. Saving leaves again, I see. Or just enjoying your private little victory lap. Dwayne, ever cautious, didn't rise to the bait immediately, instead measuring his words, knowing that Ricky thrived on reaction, on drawing others into a game of ego and bravado, a game that Dwayne had no desire to play, though history had taught him that avoidance often only delayed the inevitable confrontation. He set down the cloth he had been using to wipe counters and straightened, smiling politely, the kind of smile that suggested civility even in the face of provocation. Evening, Ricky. Just finishing up. Everything's fine here. Ricky's smirk widened, clearly unimpressed, and he sauntered closer, boots scraping against the floor with calculated purpose, a predator enjoying the hunt, though Dwayne could see the cracks beneath the surface, the insecurities that fueled Ricky's need to dominate, the subtle tremor in his hand as he gestured toward the empty coffee pots, as if he were claiming some imaginary failure on Dwayne's part. A theater of challenge constructed in the small, everyday stage of the diner, Dwayne's mind. Raced with possibilities, not out of fear, but in the measured calculation of how to neutralize the situation without escalating it, a delicate dance he had practiced for years, balancing kindness with assertiveness, the patience of a man who understood that brute strength or shouted insults rarely solved anything that mattered. Marcus, sensing the tension, leaned over to whisper in Dwayne's ear, voice low but vibrant with excitement, "Oh, this is good. He's testing you." Classic Ricky maneuver. "You've got to handle this just right." Dwayne exhaled slowly, letting the words sink in, while also feeling the familiar weight of responsibility settle over his shoulders. Being the nice guy wasn't about winning popularity contests, it was about maintaining integrity, and sometimes that meant facing confrontation calmly, firmly, and without the satisfaction of immediate applause. Ricky finally crossed the last step toward the counter, leaning in just slightly, voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone that somehow carried across the empty room. "So, Dwayne, what's the secret? How do you manage it? How do you always end up being the guy who fixes everything? Doesn't it get exhausting?" Dwayne met his gaze evenly, thinking of all the countless mornings, afternoons, and evenings he had spent rescuing situations that no one else cared enough to notice, the small kindnesses and interventions that went unrecognized, uncelebrated, yet mattered deeply to those they touched, and he spoke without hesitation, voice calm but steady. "It's not about recognition, Ricky. It's about doing the right thing. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's frustrating, but in the end, if it helps someone, even in a small way, it's worth it." Ricky paused, a flicker of surprise crossing his features, not because he necessarily understood, but because Dwayne's unwavering demeanor disrupted the familiar rhythm of mockery and provocation he had relied upon for so long, and for a brief moment, the air between them shifted, the tension giving way to an awkward respect that neither would admit aloud. Before either could elaborate further, the diner's door jingled again, and a small group of teenagers entered, laughing and chatting, oblivious to the charged interaction that had just occurred, and Dwayne instinctively stepped aside to allow them through, a quiet acknowledgement that life went on, that moments of conflict and resolution were often fleeting, swept along by the relentless flow of routine and circumstance, and as he gestured toward the counter for their orders, he felt a surge of protective responsibility, a quiet determination to ensure that even amidst chaos, there were pockets of safety, spaces where kindness and competence mattered more than bravado or theatrics. Marcus, of course, had already seized the opportunity to narrate the exchange with his usual flair, emphasizing Dwayne's calm heroism and Ricky's incredulity in such a way that it would likely be recounted later in the neighborhood as an epic showdown, though Dwayne knew that the reality was far simpler, quieter, and far less glamorous. He moved behind the counter, taking orders, pouring drinks, and preparing food with steady hands, the rhythm of work providing a familiar anchor, a sense of control in a world that often seemed intent on testing limits, and as he worked, he observed the customers, noticed their small gestures, their fleeting frustrations and joys, and felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that his presence made a tangible difference, even if invisible to those outside this little microcosm. The afternoon continued in this steady cadence, punctuated by minor incidents that required his intervention, a spilled tray, a confused delivery driver, a lost child briefly separated from a parent, and Dwayne handled each with his characteristic combination of calm assessment and practical action, never seeking recognition, only the quiet assurance that matters were set right and no harm was done. Yet even as he navigated these small challenges, he remained aware of Ricky's presence, the troublemaker observing from the corner, as if waiting for an opportune moment to reassert dominance or provoke, and Dwayne understood that some lessons weren't learned in a single encounter, that patience, consistency, and integrity were required over time, and sometimes the impact of one's actions wasn't immediate but accrued slowly, building a foundation of respect that could not easily be shaken, even by someone like Ricky. As evening approached, the diner's lighting softened, casting long, warm glows across the room, and Dwayne felt a momentary peace, the kind that comes after enduring the day's tests and emerging unscathed, a reassurance that while chaos would always lurk, competence and kindness held their own quiet power, a counterweight to impulsive spectacle, selfishness, and bravado, and in that knowledge, he found a small victory, a reassurance that being the nice guy, despite the world's tendency to overlook or even exploit such efforts, was not in vain, that each act of calm, measured goodness had a ripple effect that, while unseen, contributed to the stability, the humanity, the small everyday miracles that kept life moving forward, even if the applause went elsewhere. As the last customers departed, Dwayne wiped down the counters one final time, surveyed the empty booths, and allowed himself a rare stretch, feeling the tension of the day release from his shoulders, while Marcus, already narrating a new and even more exaggerated version of the afternoon's events to a stray neighbor who had wandered in to chat, punctuated his tale with dramatic gestures and sound effects, and Dwayne couldn't help but laugh softly, a mixture of exasperation and amusement, because this was life with Marcus, a life that balanced chaos and stability in equal measure, and despite the exhaustion, despite the frequent frustration, he wouldn't trade it for anything, knowing that being a nice guy, quietly making things right, saving moments big and small, even if finishing last in the world's eyes, was a choice he could live with, a choice that mattered more than spectacle, more than recognition, and in the dim glow of the diner's closing hour, he felt that quiet satisfaction settle into his bones, the kind that reinforced his faith in the simple, enduring power of integrity, patience, and empathy, the very qualities that define him, the qualities that ensured that, no matter what chaos or challenge tomorrow brought, he would rise to meet it, quietly, responsibly, and without complaint, because that was who he was, and sometimes, that was enough. The quiet of the diner's closing hour was deceptive, a fragile calm that Dwayne had learned never to trust fully, because life had a tendency to intrude precisely when one allowed a moment of respite, and as he stacked the last few plates, wiping away crumbs that clung stubbornly to the cheap countertop, he felt the familiar pull of anticipation, the sense that something unforeseen was about to demand his attention, a challenge that would require patience, resolve, and that quiet kind of heroism he had come to accept as his lot. Marcus, as always, seemed to sense it too, leaning against the doorframe with his arms crossed and a mischievous grin, eyes darting toward the street as if he already knew the narrative was about to take a twist worthy of his dramatic flair, and Dwayne could not help but both admire and exasperate at his friend's uncanny timing, the way chaos and spectacle seemed magnetically drawn to Marcus like iron filings to a magnet, while Dwayne, the steady hand, was invariably pulled along, often unprepared yet instinctively ready to respond. Just as Dwayne set the final plate on the shelf, the diner's door swung open with a gust of cold air, carrying in the faint scent of rain, mud, and the unmistakable tang of gasoline, a combination that immediately put Dwayne on high alert, and through the doorway stepped a figure he had hoped he wouldn't see tonight, Officer Jenkins, the local beat cop whose sense of timing rivaled Marcus in its impeccable accuracy, hair slightly damp from the drizzle outside, badge glinting under the diner lights, expression a careful blend of authority and restrained exasperation, eyes narrowing ever so slightly at the scene before him, which included Marcus gesturing wildly as if narrating some grand adventure, and Dwayne, standing behind the counter, attempting to appear casual while already calculating the likely consequences of this unexpected visit. Evening, Officer Jenkins, Dwayne began, voice steady, masking the flutter of unease he always felt when authority entered his carefully ordered world, knowing full well that any misstep could escalate a minor situation into a full-blown lecture, yet also aware that maintaining composure and honesty was his only reliable course of action, a principle that had guided him through countless neighborhood scrapes, misunderstandings, and near disasters. Officer Jenkins' gaze flicked briefly to Marcus, whose grin widened in an unspoken challenge, and then back to Dwayne, voice measured but tinged with curiosity. "Dwayne, I got a call about some commotion near the factory site earlier. I hear you were involved. Care to explain?" Dwayne straightened, nodding slightly, recounting the morning's events with calm precision, detailing how he had assisted the van's driver, prevented damage, and ensured safety, while keeping Marcus' hyperbolic narration in check without diminishing his friend's enthusiastic embellishments, a delicate balancing act that required both diplomacy and timing, the kind of interpersonal gymnastics Dwayne had perfected through years of navigating life's unpredictable theater. Officer Jenkins listened, occasionally nodding, expression tightening as he processed the account, and for a fleeting moment, Dwayne allowed himself the faintest glimmer of relief, the possibility that his quiet heroism would be recognized, or at least that his integrity would remain unquestioned, though he knew better than to expect overt praise. As the conversation with Jenkins continued, a low rumble echoed from outside, the kind of sound that immediately sets nerves on edge, and Dwayne glanced through the diner's front window to see a delivery truck approaching rapidly, tires slipping slightly on the wet pavement, driver distracted by a handheld device, and a pedestrian crossing just a few feet ahead, oblivious to the oncoming vehicle. The world seemed to slow for Dwayne in that instant, a moment suspended between potential disaster and intervention, and instinctively, he sprang into action, voice firm and commanding, hands outstretched, directing both pedestrian and driver with precise clarity, leveraging every ounce of calm authority he possessed, a skill born of experience, intuition, and countless previous near misses, while Marcus, unable to resist the drama, narrated each movement with breathless excitement. "Look! The nice guy moves again. Can you believe the timing? Incredible." The pedestrian halted just in time, looking bewildered but unharmed. The truck swerved with a controlled squeal of tires, and the driver finally realized the narrow escape, eyes wide with panic and relief, muttering apologies that went unheard by most but carried through to Dwayne as a quiet acknowledgement of his intervention, a subtle affirmation that doing the right thing mattered, even if recognition was fleeting or absent entirely. Officer Jenkins, having witnessed enough to validate Dwayne's account, allowed a small, almost imperceptible nod of approval, and for a brief moment, the tension between authority, chaos, and civility eased, a reminder that sometimes, even the quiet acts of competence earned their own unspoken acknowledgement, though Dwayne quickly returned his attention to the task at hand, aware that the diner still required tending, customers might need assistance, and Marcus' narrative was far from over. Each embellishment a testament to the peculiar way his friend elevated ordinary heroics into legend, the combination of which reinforced Dwayne's belief that life's value was measured not in applause but in the tangible impact of action, the subtle, often invisible difference one could make in the lives of others, a principle he held dear even when the world seemed to favor spectacle over substance. As the rain intensified outside, windows fogging slightly under the diner's warmth, Dwayne took a moment to glance around the room, observing the minor aftermath of a day filled with intervention and quiet heroism, a chair slightly askew, a coffee cup left half full, a stray napkin fluttering across the floor, each small imperfection a testament to the lived reality of life, not pristine or curated but authentic, filled with human error, effort, and intention, and he felt a familiar mix of satisfaction and exhaustion settle in his chest, the kind that accompanies sustained engagement with the world in a way that matters. However quietly, he wiped down the counters once more, noting the residual puddles of spilled beverages and crumbs, adjusting plates and silverware to their rightful positions, restoring order without fanfare, his hands moving with practiced efficiency, mind simultaneously cataloging the day's incidents and preparing for the inevitable ones to come, a duel, awareness that had become second nature over time. Marcus, never one to allow a quiet moment to linger, launched into a full-blown reenactment of the afternoon's events for Officer Jenkins, embellishing each detail with dramatic flair, arms flailing, voice rising and falling in theatrical cadence, and Dwayne, with the patience of a man who had witnessed countless such performances, allowed the narrative to unfold, interjecting occasionally with clarifying details to ensure accuracy without dampening enthusiasm, an act of subtle diplomacy. Balancing truth and hyperbole, order and chaos, fact and storytelling, a role he had unknowingly mastered over years of navigating life's unpredictable currents. By the time the evening shadows deepened and the last customers departed, leaving the diner bathed in the soft glow of overhead lights and the fading hum of refrigeration units, Wayne felt the cumulative weight of the day settle over him, a mixture of fatigue, fulfillment, and quiet pride, the satisfaction of having navigated chaos, protected others, and upheld his principles without seeking recognition, the kind of victory that mattered most because it was genuine and untainted by applause or exaggeration. He wiped down the counters one final time, stacking chairs and straightening menus, all the while casting glances at Marcus, who now recounted a particularly exaggerated version of the day to a stray cat perched on the windowsill, a grin of pure mischief lighting his face, and Dwayne allowed himself a small, amused shake of the head, appreciating the balance Marcus brought to his life, the thrill of spectacle contrasted with the steadiness of action, the chaos tempered by patience, the laughter juxtaposed with responsibility, a combination that defined their friendship and, in a strange way, made both of them better equipped to handle life's endless surprises. As Dwayne flipped the closed sign outward, the rain outside intensifying to a steady patter against the windows, he felt that quiet, familiar sense of anticipation that suggested the day was truly not yet done, that the universe had more in store, challenges that would test his patience, courage, and kindness, and he accepted it with a deep breath, knowing that tomorrow, as always, would bring new opportunities to do the right thing, to intervene, to act quietly and decisively where others might hesitate or falter, and he resolved that, regardless of recognition or reward, he would continue to meet life on its terms, finish last if necessary, and hold fast to the principles that had guided him thus far, because in the end, integrity, patience, and empathy were the true measures of a life well lived, and even in a world that favored spectacle over substance, Dwayne knew he had found his own quiet form of victory, one that would endure far beyond the fleeting applause of any single day. The night settled over the city with a hushed inevitability, the streetlights flickering on one by one, casting pools of orange and amber onto the wet pavement, the rhythmic tap of rain against the diner's windows creating a soothing yet insistent backdrop, and Dwayne lingered inside, surveying the empty space with a sense of cautious satisfaction, a quiet acknowledgement of the day's trials met and minor triumphs secured, though he knew well enough that calm in his life was always provisional. That the universe had a talent for turning the ordinary into the extraordinary at precisely the wrong moment, and he was prepared, as always, to meet it with patience, skill, and that understated courage that had become his trademark. Marcus, true to form, had taken up a corner booth with a notebook in hand, jotting down exaggerated details of the day's events in preparation for some future retelling, and Dwayne, watching him, allowed a faint smile, an acknowledgement of the strange balance that existed between them. Marcus, the harbinger of chaos, spectacle, and dramatic narrative; Dwayne, the stabilizing force, the quiet hero, the one who intervened when necessary, measured, deliberate, the kind of presence that often went unnoticed yet made a tangible difference, and together they created a rhythm, a dynamic that navigated the city's daily uncertainties with an almost accidental perfection. As he closed the kitchen, turning off the last of the lights and checking the register, Dwayne's mind wandered back over the events of the day, from the van in the icy lot to Ricky's tense visit and the pedestrian incident near the diner, cataloging each moment, mentally replaying decisions, considering alternatives, and assessing outcomes, a process that was as much habit as it was necessity, for in his life, reflection was not optional, it was the compass that guided action, the quiet calibration that ensured the next encounter, the next unexpected challenge, could be met with composure and integrity, and he found in this exercise a sense of quiet pride, a subtle reinforcement of his belief that even if the world overlooked or undervalued the contributions of those who acted with decency, those contributions still mattered profoundly. The doorbell chimed once more, a faint, almost polite sound in contrast to the storm outside, and Dwayne looked up to see a figure shivering in the drizzle, a young man, drenched, hair plastered to his forehead, eyes wide with anxiety, carrying a small, broken bicycle in one hand, as if the object itself were emblematic of some larger calamity. Instinctively, Dwayne stepped forward, offering the warmth of the diner and a reassuring tone. "Come on in, dry off, tell me what happened," and the young man stumbled inside, grateful, explaining that he had lost control on the slick street and the bike had toppled, scattering contents and leaving him stranded and embarrassed, an incident both mundane and urgent, perfectly suited to Dwayne's particular skill set, and Dwayne's mind immediately began to analyze the problem, scanning the bike, considering repairs, and devising a plan to return the young man to safety, all while offering calm words, maintaining eye contact, and providing that rare, stabilizing presence that reassured others in moments of crisis. Marcus, unable to resist the opportunity for narrative embellishment, leaned forward with a conspiratorial whisper, "See? Hero again. Classic Dwayne. You make it look effortless." Dwayne smiled faintly, not denying it, though he knew the effort was far from effortless. Every step, every decision, carried weight, required calculation, empathy, and that quiet courage that often went unnoticed, and he accepted that as the invisible cost of living a life guided by principle rather than spectacle. The repair took longer than anticipated, requiring careful adjustments, improvisation, and the occasional gentle reprimand to the young man about safety, patience, and foresight, and throughout it all, Dwayne maintained a calm presence, offering guidance without condescension, ensuring that learning occurred alongside resolution, a rare but essential balance, the kind that transformed minor chaos into manageable outcomes, small victories with lasting impact. By the time the bicycle was deemed rideable again, the young man's gratitude was palpable, a mixture of relief, pride, and admiration that glimmered in his eyes, and Dwayne allowed himself a small smile, internal satisfaction quietly bolstering his sense of purpose. Marcus, of course, had already spun the story into a dramatic adventure, recounting every tense moment with flair, emphasizing Dwayne's heroics as if he had single-handedly saved the day from certain doom, and Dwayne allowed it. Recognizing the entertainment value, knowing that while exaggeration distorted reality, it also underscored the essential truth, that in small acts of care and intervention, Dwayne consistently made a difference. As the young man departed, waving and promising to be more careful, the diner once again fell into its characteristic quiet, punctuated only by the rain, now steady and rhythmic, the sound a soothing accompaniment to the reflective calm settling over Dwayne, who began methodically cleaning the final dishes, wiping down the counters, and ensuring that everything was in order before he left, a ritual that offered closure, a sense that the day's chaos had been contained and the world was temporarily restored to equilibrium, however fragile. As he stepped outside, the cold rain immediately biting at his face and jacket, Dwayne paused, taking in the street, the dim light reflecting off puddles, the occasional passing car kicking up sprays of water, the distant hum of activity in the city beyond, and he felt the weight of responsibility, the subtle gravity of being the one who intervened when necessary, who maintained order in the small spheres of influence around him, a quiet duty he had accepted long ago, without fanfare, without expectation, yet with unwavering commitment, a choice that defined his identity and anchored his interactions with the world. Walking toward his apartment, keys jangling in his pocket, coat pulled tight, he considered the nature of balance, chaos and order, spectacle and quiet heroism, recognition and obscurity, and the delicate interplay that defined his life with Marcus as a constant counterpoint, a reminder that even when the world overlooked, undervalued, or misunderstood the efforts of the good-hearted, there remained satisfaction in knowing that impact had been made, and that integrity, patience, and empathy held their own quiet power in a society obsessed with appearance and immediate gratification. At his apartment, he entered the small space with relief, shedding coat and shoes, allowing warmth and domestic familiarity to wrap around him, and he sank into his worn couch, closing his eyes for a moment to let the day's exhaustion wash over him, reflecting on the events, small victories, and subtle dramas, each reinforcing the notion that life was unpredictable, demanding, and occasionally punishing, yet inherently rewarding for those willing to act with conscience and compassion. Marcus, ever persistent, leaned against the doorway, notebook in hand, narrating a new imagined chapter in their ongoing saga, eyes bright with anticipation and mischief, while Dwayne, half smiling, half sighing, acknowledged his friend's enthusiasm, recognizing in it the peculiar rhythm of their friendship, the constant push and pull between chaos and order, exaggeration and truth, excitement and calm, a relationship that had weathered high school pranks, minor neighborhood crises, and now the intricacies of adult responsibility, and which, in its unique way, defined a significant portion of Dwayne's existence. Night deepened, rain pattering steadily, and Dwayne allowed himself a quiet internal review. The day had been challenging, moments of intervention had been necessary, and yet he had navigated each with skill, composure, and care, an unsung hero in the small theater of his world, acting not for recognition but for the satisfaction of having made life safer, kinder, and more manageable for others. And as he prepared for rest, the lingering thought persisted. Being the nice guy often meant finishing last in terms of acknowledgement, applause, or attention, but the personal knowledge of one's consistent integrity, quiet heroism, and tangible impact offered a profound, enduring reward, a reassurance that, despite appearances, he was living rightly, ethically, and meaningfully, and that sometimes, finishing last in the world's eyes was not only acceptable, it was preferable, for it ensured that effort was authentic, intentions were pure, and action was grounded in principle rather than performative display, a lesson he embraced fully as the city outside continued its nocturnal rhythm, indifferent yet interwoven with the subtle victories of lives quietly shaped and preserved through conscientious care. The night lingered, thick and damp, wrapping the city streets in a veil of mist and quiet, a deceptive calm that Dwayne had learned to respect yet never trust fully, and as he settled into his small apartment, the faint hum of the radiator mingling with the distant echo of tires on wet pavement, he reflected on the day's events with a mixture of relief, pride, and that subtle exhaustion that only comes from a day spent actively preventing calamity while maintaining integrity. Marcus, sprawled on the corner of the couch with notebook in hand, had begun what he called a strategic recounting of the day, narrating each incident with exaggerated flair, voice rising and falling like an actor on stage, and though Dwayne tried to tune it out, he could not help but smile at the theatrics, recognizing that Marcus' embellishments were less about deceit and more about transforming ordinary events into stories worth telling, a skill Dwayne secretly admired, if only for its energy and creativity. The apartment felt unusually quiet once Marcus paused to refill his mug, the soft clink of ceramic on counter punctuating the stillness, and Dwayne allowed himself a long, slow breath, the kind that pulled tension from the shoulders and reminded him that some form of respite, however brief, was possible. He gazed out the window at the city lights reflecting off slick streets, a kaleidoscope of golds, reds, and whites dancing across the rain-soaked asphalt, and he felt a familiar tug of responsibility, the knowledge that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new moments requiring calm judgment, empathy, and action, and though fatigue weighed heavily on him, a quiet determination rooted him to the conviction that being the nice guy, even when finishing last in the eyes of the world, was a choice worth honoring. He moved to the kitchenette to make a cup of tea, hands working on autopilot, mind reviewing the subtle lessons embedded in the day's events, How the young man with the bicycle had learned the importance of caution and focus, how his intervention with the pedestrian and the distracted driver had prevented harm that few would ever notice, how Ricky's attempts to provoke him had been met with patience and measured assertion, and how each small act, unnoticed by most, accumulated into a life quietly defined by integrity, responsibility, and care. It was a philosophy that Dwayne clung to, a moral anchor in a city that often celebrated bravado and spectacle over substance and thoughtfulness. Marcus, sipping his tea with dramatic slurps, suddenly leaned forward, eyes glinting with mischief and curiosity. "Hey, Dwayne, what if we took all the stuff from today, the van, the pedestrian, Ricky, the bike, and made it into a full-blown adventure story? You know, real heroics. Think of it, the Chronicles of Dwayne, Savior of Side Streets." Dwayne chuckled quietly, shaking his head with that familiar mix of amusement and resignation, knowing Marcus' imagination would not allow him to rest until the day's events had been elevated to epic proportions, and while Dwayne preferred reality over spectacle, he also recognized the value in allowing people to perceive events through the lens of drama, because sometimes the exaggeration encouraged reflection, awareness, and even appreciation for actions that might otherwise remain invisible. The apartment grew colder as the night deepened, and Dwayne wrapped a blanket around his shoulders, settling into the couch beside Marcus, thinking about the broader patterns of his life, how chaos and responsibility seemed to follow him in tandem, how his instincts to help often drew him into situations others avoided, and how the satisfaction of quietly making a difference outweighed the occasional frustration, exhaustion, or lack of recognition. It was a complex calculus, but one he accepted with conviction, knowing that the world might not notice, but those who benefited from his interventions did, in ways subtle yet enduring. The phone rang abruptly, cutting through the stillness, and Dwayne jumped slightly, glancing at the screen to see a number he did not recognize. He hesitated, weighing the likelihood of yet another minor emergency or misadventure, and then answered, voice steady. "Hello." On the line, a woman's voice trembled slightly, anxious but controlled, explaining that she had locked herself out of her apartment and her cat was trapped inside, meowing frantically, a situation both trivial and urgent, emblematic of the small, immediate crises that seemed to accumulate disproportionately around Dwayne's life, and he exhaled slowly, already calculating the best approach, reassuring the woman, assessing access options, ensuring safety for both human and feline, and preparing for what would likely be a delicate negotiation with a door that resisted intervention. Marcus, ever observant, peered over Dwayne's shoulder as he jotted down notes and possible strategies on a scrap of paper, eyes wide with anticipation, whispering, "Another hero moment. I can see it now, Dwayne versus the stubborn lock. Suspenseful, thrilling, maybe even cinematic." Dwayne ignored the commentary, focusing instead on precise instructions for the woman to keep calm, remove any obstacles from the doorway, and ensure the cat remained visible while he gathered tools from his apartment, a slim crowbar, a set of screwdrivers, and a flashlight, items chosen for utility rather than flair, and as he prepared to leave, he reassured her with quiet confidence, "Don't worry, we'll get your cat back safely. It'll be fine." Outside, the rain had slowed to a steady drizzle, the streets glistening under the glow of streetlights, and Dwayne moved with deliberate caution, aware that the narrow sidewalks and slick surfaces demanded attention, each step measured, each decision deliberate, as he navigated the urban labyrinth toward the woman's building. Marcus followed, notebook in hand, narrating each movement in whispered tones, highlighting obstacles, potential hazards, and moments of suspense, as if their journey were a cinematic sequence unfolding in real time, and Dwayne, accustomed to his friend's dramatics, allowed the narration to flow, focusing instead on the immediate task, a locked door, a frightened cat, and the imperative to resolve the situation without harm. Arriving at the apartment, Dwayne assessed the lock, evaluating options with practiced precision, and began the careful process of manipulation, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system, while Marcus crouched nearby, narrating the tension for maximum dramatic effect. And here he is, folks, the master of calm, the unflappable Dwayne, facing off against the stubborn enemy known as the Lock of Despair. The cat, a small tabby with wide eyes and twitching ears, meowed plaintively from the living room window, and Dwayne offered soft, soothing words while working, his presence a stabilizing force in the midst of feline panic and human anxiety. And after what seemed an eternity yet was only minutes, the lock yielded, the door swinging open with a satisfying click, and the woman rushed in, scooping up her cat with tears of relief and gratitude streaming down her cheeks, her voice trembling as she thanked Dwayne profusely. "I don't know how to repay you. You've saved him, you've saved us." Dwayne, brushing off the accolades with his characteristic modesty, smiled faintly, just happy everything's okay, knowing full well that the true reward lay not in thanks but in the immediate, tangible relief of lives and emotions restored, a subtle, profound impact that rarely made headlines but mattered immensely to those affected. Marcus, ever the dramatist, could not resist concluding the episode with a flourish, gesturing broadly and exclaiming, "Another victory. Another life touched by Dwayne's quiet heroism. Take note, world, the nice guy finishes last, but sometimes he finishes first where it really counts." Dwayne allowed himself a small, tired laugh, appreciating the irony, knowing the truth of the statement, yet finding comfort in the knowledge that each act of kindness, no matter how small or unseen, accumulated into a life quietly defined by decency, responsibility, and integrity, a life that, despite the exhaustion, the unpredictability, and the perpetual presence of chaos, remained meaningful, impactful, and resolutely his own. As they walked back to his apartment, the drizzle softening to a gentle mist, Dwayne felt the weight of the night's events settle into a familiar, contemplative calm, recognizing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to act with quiet courage, and that being a nice guy, resolute, patient, and unflinchingly conscientious, remained a choice worth honoring, regardless of applause, recognition, or societal reward, because true satisfaction was found not in spectacle, but in the steady, reliable impact of one's actions on the lives of others, and in that knowledge, he allowed himself to rest, even for a brief moment, in the satisfaction of a day lived rightly. Morning arrived with a hesitant light, slanting through blinds and casting long stripes across the floor of Dwayne's modest apartment, a soft illumination that felt almost reluctant, as if the city itself were still recovering from the previous night's rain and quiet heroics, and Dwayne stirred, stretching slowly, muscles still carrying the fatigue of yesterday's interventions, the unbroken vigilance that had seen him through minor crises, chaotic moments, and unexpected confrontations with the inevitable blend of responsibility and empathy that defined his life. Marcus was already awake, perched at the edge of the couch with notebook in hand, scribbling furiously while glancing occasionally at Dwayne, eyes alight with anticipation, plotting new narratives, embellishments, and what he termed heroic sequences that would transform ordinary incidents into epic chronicles of valor. And Dwayne, half amused, half exhausted, offered a faint smile, knowing that his friend's energy and imagination were in constant dialogue with his own steadfast, measured presence, a dynamic that had persisted for years and shaped the rhythm of both their lives. The aroma of brewing coffee began to fill the apartment as Marcus had taken it upon himself to start the day with a pot already steeping, the smell rich and grounding, a comforting backdrop to Dwayne's contemplation of what awaited outside, and he reflected on the patterns of his life, how his interventions, often unrequested, sometimes inconvenient, were motivated not by recognition but by an innate sense of responsibility and decency, the invisible force that compelled him to act when the world hesitated, and how Marcus, in contrast, seemed to thrive on spectacle, observation, and dramatization, a counterpoint that brought both levity and complexity to each encounter, and a reminder that chaos and order, narrative and reality, were not mutually exclusive but rather intertwined strands in the ongoing story of their lives. After a quick breakfast, Dwayne pulled on a jacket and checked his pockets for keys, wallet, and phone, the usual preparations for leaving home, underscoring his habitual readiness to respond to life's unpredictable challenges, while Marcus continued his animated recitation of yesterday's events, punctuating each story with sound effects, exaggerated gestures, and theatrical pauses designed to elevate even the smallest incident into a spectacle worthy of audience attention, and Dwayne allowed the narrative to unfold, recognizing the subtle lessons embedded within, that perspective shaped perception, that storytelling amplified meaning, and that sometimes the act of recounting itself could transform the mundane into something memorable and instructive. Outside, the city was damp, streets glistening with residual rain, the air crisp and biting, a reminder that winter had not yet loosened its grip, and Dwayne navigated the familiar sidewalks with practiced care, aware of the potential hazards that lurk around each corner, sleek patches, distracted pedestrians, inattentive drivers, all components of the chaotic tapestry in which he operated, and all requiring vigilance, attention, and sometimes intervention, the very qualities that define his quiet heroism and drew him inevitably into situations that tested both patience and skill. The first call of the day came swiftly, a neighbor alerting him to a minor water leak in the apartment complex 2 blocks over, a situation requiring immediate attention to prevent damage yet manageable with careful, deliberate action, and Dwayne's mind immediately organized a plan, considering tools, sequence of steps, and potential complications, all while maintaining a calm, reassuring tone over the phone, offering guidance to the worried neighbor, and preparing for a quick departure. Marcus, sensing the narrative opportunity, leaned forward with barely contained excitement, whispering, "Another mission." You can almost hear the soundtrack already. Will Dwayne triumph again against the forces of chaos? Dwayne merely nodded, finishing his coffee, the liquid warmth grounding him as he gathered necessary tools, keys jingling, backpack slung over one shoulder, and he stepped into the city morning, ready to meet the next challenge with steady hands and an unwavering sense of purpose. Upon arrival at the apartment complex, Dwayne assessed the situation with methodical precision, locating the source of the leak, advising tenants on temporary measures to prevent water damage, and beginning the repair, all while maintaining a calm demeanor that reassured everyone involved, and despite the minor inconvenience and occasional murmur of frustration from residents, he navigated the technical and interpersonal aspects of the task with the patience, skill, and quiet authority that had come to define him. Marcus, notebook in hand, circled the room, narrating the unfolding scenario with breathless energy, highlighting Dwayne's interventions, and emphasizing the tension inherent in balancing water pressure, faulty pipes, and human concerns, exaggerating risks and triumphs alike, and Dwayne, focused entirely on the task, allowed the dramatization, recognizing its value in reminding him that perception, narrative, and reality often intersected in ways that illuminated lessons for both participant and observer. By mid-morning, the repair was complete, minor water damage prevented, and tenants expressed gratitude, relief evident in gestures, words, and the fleeting smiles that passed between them, subtle acknowledgments that underscored the impact of Dwayne's efforts, though never loudly proclaimed, the kind of quiet triumph that left no headlines but sustained the fabric of community, demonstrating the practical power of responsibility and attentiveness in the lives of ordinary people. Walking back through the city streets, Dwayne reflected on the interplay of chance and choice, the way circumstances often demanded intervention, and the cumulative effect of countless minor acts of care, each contributing to stability, safety, and well-being, the invisible architecture of a neighborhood quietly supported by those willing to act with empathy, foresight, and courage, traits that, while rarely celebrated, formed the backbone of everyday life. By late morning, a new complication arose, a delivery truck wedged awkwardly in a narrow alley, driver flustered and frustrated, pedestrians watching, and the potential for accident palpable, and once again, Dwayne stepped forward, assessing the situation, communicating clearly, guiding the driver through precise maneuvers to extricate the vehicle without incident, all while maintaining composure and minimizing stress for bystanders, and when the truck was finally free, a quiet wave of relief passed through the small crowd, unnoticed by the wider city but deeply meaningful to those present, a testament to the value of careful intervention and skillful management of unforeseen crises. Marcus, unable to resist, immediately transformed the episode into high drama, narrating Dwayne's calculations, the near misses, and the triumph as if he had single-handedly averted catastrophe on a global scale, arms flailing, voice rising and falling for maximum effect, and Dwayne, smiling faintly, allowed the performance to continue, recognizing that it served both as entertainment and as an acknowledgement of the effort, albeit through the lens of hyperbole and creative interpretation. By noon, the city had returned to its habitual rhythm, the streets filling with commuters, the hum of activity blending into the backdrop of Dwayne's awareness, and he paused at a cafe to refill his water bottle, reflecting on the morning's challenges, interventions, and quiet victories, cataloging lessons, and anticipating future tasks, the rhythm of action and reflection forming a continuous loop, grounding him in the knowledge that being conscientious, patient, and kind was not always recognized or rewarded, but consistently valuable. As he continued toward the diner to resume his afternoon responsibilities, the interplay of chaos and order, responsibility and spectacle, narrative and reality, continued to unfold around him, a subtle reminder that the world was unpredictable, that crises could arise at any moment, and that the quiet, steady intervention of someone who acted with integrity could make the difference between minor inconvenience and real harm, between fear and relief, between confusion and clarity, and Dwayne, fully aware of this, moved forward with purpose, ready to meet whatever challenges the day would present with skill, patience, and unwavering commitment to doing the right thing. By the time he arrived at the diner, familiar sights, sounds, and smells welcomed him, the hum of conversation, the clatter of dishes, the aroma of coffee and food, a microcosm of community that thrived because individuals like him acted with care, consistency, and a quiet heroism, ensuring that even amidst chaos and unpredictability, there was order, safety, and reassurance. And as he moved behind the counter, greeting familiar patrons and preparing for another round of daily responsibilities, he felt the satisfaction of a man whose actions, though often unnoticed by the broader world, held profound significance in the lives immediately touched, a subtle yet enduring affirmation that being a nice guy, finishing last in recognition but first in responsibility and impact, remained a choice worth every ounce of effort, patience, and quiet courage. The afternoon settled into its usual rhythm, the diner alive with conversation, the clink of silverware against plates, the soft hiss of the espresso machine, and the occasional bursts of laughter that made the space feel less like a business and more like a living, breathing community hub, and Dwayne moved through it with the calm efficiency that had become second nature, his presence a quiet stabilizer, guiding interactions, assisting patrons, and anticipating needs before they were voiced, all while maintaining a demeanor that encouraged civility and reassurance, the subtle power of quiet competence that often went unnoticed but was deeply felt by those who relied on it. Marcus, as always, hovered nearby, narrating every small interaction with his signature flair, dramatizing minor spills and misunderstandings into epic tales of near disaster averted by Dwayne's unflappable calm. And while Dwayne found the constant commentary mildly exhausting, he recognized its utility. It elevated awareness, highlighted lessons, and reinforced the subtle impact of consistent, thoughtful action, a reminder that what seemed ordinary to one could appear heroic to another when framed with intention and care. Midway through the afternoon, the familiar jingle of the diner door announced a new arrival, and Dwayne instinctively straightened, noting the young woman who entered, coat dripping, hair damp from a sudden downpour, eyes scanning the room with a mixture of urgency and hesitation, and he quickly moved to greet her, voice calm and welcoming. "Hi there, can I help you?" She hesitated, glancing around the diner as if seeking something, or someone, familiar, and then explained in a rushed, anxious tone that she had misplaced her bag somewhere along the street earlier, and inside it were important documents and a laptop essential for work, the kind of mishap that could quickly escalate into a personal and professional crisis, and Dwayne immediately began thinking through options, tracing the likely path of the bag, coordinating with the local businesses along the street, and preparing to intervene in a way that minimized panic while maximizing the chance of recovery. Marcus, seated at a nearby booth, could not resist launching a commentary, whispering in a dramatic cadence, "Another case. Another potential catastrophe. Will Dwayne retrieve the sacred artifacts of modern life before chaos consumes them?" Dwayne merely offered a faint smile, adjusting his coat and preparing to step outside, fully aware that this was not an exaggeration. To the young woman, and to the potential future she faced without her materials, the stakes were immediate and pressing, and responsibility demanded action, regardless of narrative flair. Outside, the streets were slick with rain, the city a mixture of grey concrete, shimmering puddles, and intermittent flashes of neon signage reflecting off wet asphalt, and Dwayne scanned the area, anticipating possible locations where the bag might have been dropped or picked up, evaluating each scenario with the methodical precision of someone accustomed to navigating small crises, a pattern of thought honed by countless encounters that had demanded calm judgment under pressure. A nearby shop owner confirmed seeing a bag matching the description, left unattended near a curb briefly before being picked up by an unknown passerby, and Dwayne, moving with deliberate speed and clarity, coordinated with other witnesses, tracing the route and ultimately identifying a security guard at a small office building who had taken it in for safekeeping, preventing theft or loss, a chain of events that, while invisible to most, illustrated the quiet ripple effect of attentiveness, communication, and prompt action, the kind of intervention that defined Dwayne's approach to the world and earned the silent respect of those whose problems he quietly solved. By the time he returned the bag to its grateful owner, the young woman's relief was palpable, tears swelling, voice trembling with thanks, and though Dwayne brushed off the gratitude with a modest acknowledgement, internally he felt the familiar, quiet satisfaction that accompanied having acted decisively and responsibly, turning potential disaster into resolution, fear into reassurance, and confusion into clarity, the kind of outcomes that mattered more than applause or recognition, for they shaped the lived experience of real people in meaningful ways. Back inside the diner, Marcus immediately elevated the story to epic proportions, narrating each observation, chase, and triumph with his usual dramatic panache, gesturing wildly, voice rising and falling to emphasize tension and heroism, and Dwayne, standing behind the counter, allowed the dramatization to continue, recognizing the dual effect, entertainment for the bystanders, and a reinforcement, true story, of the values of attentiveness, courage, and calm action under pressure. The afternoon progressed with its usual ebb and flow, patrons coming and going, occasional minor mishaps such as spilled drinks or misplaced orders handled with quiet efficiency by Dwayne, Marcus embellishing each one as a dramatic encounter with chaos, and the rhythm of the diner reinforcing the delicate balance of order and unpredictability, the interplay between narrative, perception, and reality that framed much of Dwayne's life. Just as the last of the lunch crowd departed, the door jangled again, and a familiar figure stepped inside, Ricky, the neighborhood troublemaker whose penchant for provocation and disruption had tested Dwayne's patience on numerous occasions, leather jacket damp from the drizzle, smirk firmly in place, eyes scanning the room with barely concealed curiosity and challenge, and Dwayne, recognizing the potential for conflict, straightened, preparing to engage with calm authority, assessing the situation and anticipating likely provocations, all while remaining grounded in principle and intent on minimizing disruption rather than escalating confrontation. Ricky's gaze settled on Dwayne, and he spoke in that slow, deliberate tone designed to unsettle. "Back again, Dwayne? Saving the world one spilled coffee and lost bag at a time?" Dwayne met his gaze evenly, voice calm and measured. Just doing what's right, Ricky. That's all. The exchange, brief yet charged, illustrated the familiar pattern. Ricky thrived on reaction, on provocation, while Dwayne relied on calm, principled action, a dynamic that had repeated countless times and that Dwayne navigated with quiet skill, anticipating escalation but responding only as necessary, maintaining the balance between civility and assertiveness. Moments later, a commotion outside drew their attention. A small fire had ignited in a nearby alley, likely from a discarded cigarette, flames licking against the walls and threatening to spread, and Dwayne moved instinctively, guiding patrons to safety, coordinating with onlookers, and preparing to intervene while contacting emergency services, demonstrating once again the seamless integration of calm assessment, practical action, and quiet leadership that had defined him for years, and Marcus. Of course, narrating every movement, voice rising to capture suspense, risk, and heroism, painting the scene as though it were a cinematic climax, even as Dwayne focused on real outcomes, safety, containment, and resolution. Firefighters arrived, quickly extinguishing the small blaze, and Dwayne ensured no one had been harmed, assessing minor damages, offering reassurance, and coordinating follow-up with affected residents, the aftermath illustrating the interplay between chance, preparedness, and decisive action, and reinforcing the principle that integrity and attentiveness often operated quietly, unseen, but with profound impact. By the late afternoon, the diner's activities slowed once more, leaving Dwayne with the calm routine of closing duties, counting inventory, wiping counters, straightening tables, and reflecting on the day's cumulative experiences, a mixture of fatigue, satisfaction, and contemplative observation settling over him. The quiet triumph of life safeguarded, crises averted, and minor disasters turned into resolutions, all accomplished through vigilance, patience, and consistent integrity, the kind of invisible heroism that defined him more fully than any dramatic retelling ever could. As dusk approached, the city's lights flickered on, casting reflections on wet streets, signaling the transition from day to evening, and Dwayne allowed himself a brief pause by the front window, watching the world continue, aware that tomorrow would inevitably present new challenges, new crises, and opportunities for quiet heroism, and he accepted it with the familiar resolve, understanding that being a nice guy, acting with calm competence, and finishing last in recognition did not diminish the profound value of consistent, principled action, and in that understanding, he found the enduring satisfaction that carried him through both routine and chaos alike. Evening descended on the city with a quiet inevitability, the soft glow of streetlights reflected in puddles from the morning and afternoon rains, and Dwayne found himself walking back toward the diner, keys jingling in his pocket, coat pulled tight against the chill, a familiar rhythm guiding his steps, the anticipation of nightfall and its unpredictable demands settling over him like a subtle weight, comforting yet demanding vigilance, for he had learned that calm often preceded chaos, and the city had a talent for inserting unexpected challenges precisely when one allowed a moment of ease. Marcus, ever the shadow to his quiet heroism, trailed behind, notebook in hand, narrating the sights and sounds with breathless intensity, dramatizing minor events into epic possibilities, and Dwayne, though accustomed to the commentary, felt a familiar mixture of amusement and exasperation, recognizing that the narration served a purpose beyond entertainment. It highlighted the significance of attentive observation, preparation, and action, transforming ordinary life into lessons in resilience, prudence, and empathy. As they approached the diner, the familiar jingle of the front door announced their arrival, drawing the attention of a handful of late-evening patrons, each immersed in conversations that ranged from mundane complaints to private joys, and Dwayne moved behind the counter, greeting them with his usual calm courtesy, assessing needs, anticipating questions, and preparing for the subtle orchestration required to maintain order, a skill born of experience and quiet vigilance, a combination of foresight, patience, and empathy that allowed minor chaos to unfold safely without unnecessary drama. Marcus, of course, began immediately recounting the day's previous adventures to any willing listener, emphasizing Dwayne's heroic interventions, from the bike recovery to the fire in the alley, his tone rising and falling to emphasize danger, tension, and triumph, and while Dwayne listened with patient tolerance, he also recognized the deeper utility. Marcus' dramatizations reinforced the value of attentiveness, action, and calm under pressure, translating invisible heroism into perceptible narrative, a subtle yet powerful lesson in perception and memory. Midway through the evening, a sudden commotion outside the diner drew Dwayne's attention, a small altercation between two pedestrians, voices raised, gestures flailing, the situation escalating quickly yet precariously, the potential for injury or misunderstanding high, and Dwayne instinctively stepped forward, guiding both parties with calm authority, separating them physically while addressing emotional tensions, and redirecting energy away from confrontation toward resolution, demonstrating once again the integration of observation, judgment, and intervention that define his approach to challenges. Marcus, unable to resist, narrated the confrontation in whispers and gestures, heightening suspense, amplifying the stakes, describing Dwayne as the mediator between chaos and order, and Dwayne, accustomed to the interplay, focused solely on practical outcomes, ensuring neither party was harmed, clarifying misunderstandings, and gently steering resolution while maintaining a tone that projected authority without aggression. Once the incident was diffused, both pedestrians expressing relief and gratitude in subtle ways, Dwayne returned inside, assessing the diner's environment, adjusting chairs, wiping counters, and ensuring that all customers were attended to, the habitual routine reinforcing his role as stabilizer, observer, and problem solver, the quiet linchpin of an otherwise unpredictable world. A few minutes later, the phone rang sharply, a sound that immediately drew Dwayne's attention, and when he answered, a frantic voice relayed an urgent concern. A nearby construction site had reported a minor collapse of scaffolding, no injuries yet, but the potential for danger was high, and immediate assessment and coordination were necessary to prevent escalation. Dwayne, already calculating steps, calmly directed the caller on safety measures while preparing to arrive on site, ensuring that the information was precise, that risk was mitigated for workers and passers-by, and that proper authorities were informed, all the while maintaining a measured tone that reassured the anxious informant. Marcus, of course, narrated the unfolding crisis, voice low but animated, describing Dwayne's movements as if he were a protagonist in a suspense thriller, the timing, precision, and quick thinking elevated into a near-cinematic sequence, and while Dwayne acknowledged the dramatization with a faint nod, he remained focused entirely on tangible outcomes, ensuring no injuries occurred, that structures were stabilized, and that the day's cumulative stress did not tip into catastrophe. Arriving at the construction site, Dwayne assessed the structural integrity, communicated with supervisors, guided workers in temporary stabilization, and coordinated with arriving emergency responders, moving fluidly between observation, instruction, and hands-on intervention, the orchestration of action both deliberate and adaptive, reflecting his unique blend of calm decisiveness, empathy, and practical problem-solving. Marcus lingered at the periphery, recording details, exaggerating moments for dramatic effect, but also observing Dwayne's technique, as if the spectacle itself could teach lessons in courage, focus, and responsibility, the intersection of narrative and reality serving both entertainment and subtle education for any attentive observer. Once the immediate danger had been mitigated and authorities secured ongoing measures, Dwayne returned to the diner, the weight of responsibility settling in his chest in a familiar combination of fatigue, satisfaction, and reflective anticipation, understanding that the impact of his actions was often invisible to the broader world yet profoundly significant to those directly affected, a measure of quiet heroism that neither demanded nor relied upon recognition. Back inside, the evening continued with its usual cadence, patrons conversing softly, the aroma of coffee and baked goods mingling with the slight chill from opening doors, minor spills and misplaced orders addressed with quiet diligence, Marcus providing an ongoing commentary that elevated the mundane into narratives of triumph and near disaster, and Dwayne maintaining the balance between engagement, intervention, and observation, ensuring that each moment was managed with calm, consistent competence. As the night deepened, a small figure entered, a child, alone, clearly lost and anxious, scanning the diner for a familiar face, and Dwayne immediately moved to intercept, crouching to the child's level, voice gentle and reassuring, "Hey there, are you looking for someone?" The child explained, voice trembling, that they had wandered away from their parents while exploring the neighborhood, and Dwayne's mind instantly organized a plan, comforting the child, confirming identification details, coordinating with local patrons to locate the parents, and ensuring the child remained safe and calm, all while maintaining a demeanor that projected authority without intimidation, empathy without condescension. Marcus, narrating the situation in near hushed tones, emphasized the stakes, describing Dwayne as a guardian, a mediator between vulnerability and safety, a stabilizing force in a city that often overlooked the unnoticed risks of everyday life, and while dramatization framed the narrative, Dwayne focused on the tangible outcomes, leading the child to safety, identifying the parents who arrived moments later in a panic, and reuniting them with relief and gratitude clearly visible in their expressions. The evening concluded with patrons departing, the diner returning to quiet calm, Dwayne attending final closing tasks, wiping counters, checking inventory, straightening chairs, and reflecting on the day's cumulative experiences, minor crises averted, lives impacted positively, interventions unnoticed by most but critical to those affected, a continuous thread of quiet heroism threading through ordinary existence, and the recognition that being a nice guy, acting with consistent integrity, patience, and empathy, often meant finishing last in the eyes of the world, yet first in the meaningful, practical outcomes of one's actions, a principle Dwayne accepted fully and carried with quiet pride. As he flipped the closed sign outward, the streets glimmering with reflections from streetlights and residual rain, Dwayne allowed himself a slow breath, recognizing that tomorrow would inevitably present new challenges, but confident that, guided by principle and calm judgment, he would navigate each with skill, care, and unwavering commitment to doing the right thing, and that in the end, quiet heroism, consistent action, and measured courage were the true measures of a life well lived, more enduring and meaningful than any recognition, applause, or dramatic narrative could convey. The city settled into the early hours of night with a soft, almost imperceptible shift, the glow of streetlights reflecting off damp asphalt, and Dwayne, having completed the closing of the diner, stepped out into the quiet streets, keys in hand, coat collar raised against the chill, senses attuned to the subtle rhythm of the city, where even in apparent stillness, unexpected challenges and opportunities for intervention could arise. Marcus trailed behind, notebook clutched to his chest, narrating the evening's quiet with dramatic flair, his voice soft yet urgent, imbuing ordinary shadows, puddles, and passerby with narrative significance, and Dwayne, accustomed to the interplay of reality and embellishment, allowed it, recognizing in it both entertainment and reflection, a way to illuminate the continuous dance between chaos and calm, attention and oblivion, intervention and observation that defined so much of his life. The night air carried the faint hum of distant traffic, occasional sirens, and the whisper of leaves brushing against buildings, a subdued symphony of urban life, and Dwayne walked with measured steps, thoughts cataloging the day's events, reflecting on patterns, and anticipating the possibility of unforeseen emergencies. The mental preparation as habitual and necessary as the physical act of moving through space with alertness and awareness, he considered each interaction, small intervention, and quiet act of care, assessing not just outcomes but subtleties, whether individuals felt reassured, whether potential crises had been averted, whether the cumulative effect of his actions had maintained stability and prevented harm in ways invisible to the majority of observers. Their walk took them past a small convenience store where a man appeared to be struggling with a locked door, keys jangling, frustration evident in gestures and tone, and Dwayne, scanning the situation, identified immediately that intervention could prevent escalation or injury, and moved forward, voice calm and measured, offering assistance. "Hey, let me help you with that." Sometimes it takes just a second set of hands. The man, initially wary, hesitated before accepting, and Dwayne coordinated the movement of the lock with careful technique, ensuring safety and efficiency, while Marcus narrated the small incident with exaggerated stakes, likening the struggle of the keys to a battle against fate itself, and Dwayne allowed the narrative to exist alongside reality, focusing solely on practical outcomes, resolution, safety, and reassurance. Once the lock yielded and the man thanked him, Dwayne felt a familiar quiet satisfaction, a problem solved, a potential frustration mitigated, an intervention executed with patience and attention, its significance clear to those involved, though invisible to the broader city, yet cumulatively, each minor act reinforced the texture of a community subtly preserved by attentiveness and calm action. Continuing their walk, the streets grew narrower, lights dimmer, shadows stretching longer, and Dwayne noticed a young woman running, carrying several shopping bags, moving with anxious haste, almost colliding with a lamppost, and his instincts triggered immediately. He stepped forward, voice firm yet non-alarming, "Watch out." Step to the side. Her startled reaction led to a small stumble, the bags tipping, and Dwayne reacted with reflexive speed, steadying her, gathering the fallen contents, and guiding her to a safer path, checking that she was unharmed, and offering gentle advice, "Take your time, there's no rush." Marcus, pen poised, whispered in awe. Once again, the unflappable hero intervenes at the perfect moment, unseen by the masses but pivotal to the outcome of the day, and Dwayne, brushing off the commentary with a faint, wry smile, reflected on the pattern, that attentiveness, presence, and readiness to act were often the invisible forces preserving safety and civility, the quiet glue holding together the unpredictable chaos of urban life. As they passed a small park, a commotion caught their attention. A group of teenagers had become stranded on the edge of a playground slide, one of them stuck in an awkward position, fear escalating quickly into frustration and potential panic, and Dwayne, assessing the situation, intervened with calm authority, instructing them on safe movement, providing physical guidance without force, and de-escalating the rising tension with steady words and measured gestures, ensuring no injuries occurred while also maintaining the teenagers' dignity and independence, a balance of empathy, authority, and action that had become second nature. Marcus, narrating the event with his usual flair, elevated it into a narrative of suspense and resolution, highlighting Dwayne's technique, patience, and judgment, while Dwayne focused on outcomes, safely freeing the individual, restoring calm, and guiding the group toward cooperative behavior, the subtle art of intervention executed without spectacle yet producing profound immediate effects. As they moved on, a streetlight flickered overhead, and Dwayne's attention shifted to a man leaning against the wall, hunched, muttering to himself, clearly disoriented, the potential for harm or misjudgment high, and he approached carefully, maintaining a respectful distance while offering a calm voice, "Hey there, you okay? Can I help you with something?" The man's initial tension eased as Dwayne assessed the situation, offering guidance and coordination to ensure he could reach a safe location without incident, and when necessary, contacting social services to assist, demonstrating again the combination of situational awareness, empathy, and procedural knowledge that marked his quiet heroism. Marcus, standing at a safe distance, narrated with a tone of hushed reverence, observed the mastery of calm, the deployment of empathy and practical knowledge, a hero in the shadows of the city, finishing last in recognition but first in impact, and Dwayne allowed the commentary, knowing that while dramatized, it underscored the essential truth, careful, principled action mattered, even when invisible to the majority of the world. Later, as they walked past an alley, A small firecracker had been left smoldering, creating smoke and a minor scare for passers-by, and Dwayne, ever vigilant, moved quickly to extinguish it with an available bottle of water, ensuring no injuries or property damage, demonstrating once again the seamless integration of observation, calm reaction, and practical action that had become his hallmark. "Marcus, notebook ready," whispered urgently, narrating the intervention as a cinematic climax, though Dwayne remained focused on tangible results, the quiet satisfaction of averting a potential incident evident in his subtle nod to the relief pedestrians. Returning to the diner for final nightly duties, Dwayne reflected on the pattern of the day: minor crises averted, interventions executed with patience and skill, safety restored, and reassurance provided, all without need for public acknowledgement, a rhythm of quiet heroism that demanded attention to detail, empathy, foresight, and readiness to act at a moment's notice, and yet offered a profound satisfaction in knowing that each action, no matter how unseen, carried significant value in the lives of those immediately affected. As he secured the diner for the night, lights dimmed, doors locked, and counters wiped clean, the city outside quiet and glistening under the steady glow of streetlights, he allowed himself a deep breath, appreciating the blend of fatigue, relief, and contemplative reflection that came from a day well navigated, a day in which careful attention, calm intervention, and unassuming courage had prevented harm and restored order multiple times, each act a testament to the enduring worth of consistency, empathy, and principle. Marcus, seated on a stool by the window, summarized the day's events with dramatic crescendos, highlighting each heroic moment with flair, and Dwayne, with a small, tired smile, allowed the narrative to unfold. Recognizing that the dramatization, while exaggerated, captured the essential rhythm of his life, the perpetual dance between challenge and response, the interplay of chaos and calm, the invisible but consequential acts of quiet heroism, and the subtle but enduring influence of those who choose consistently to act rightly, regardless of recognition or applause, fully embracing the reality that being a nice guy often meant finishing last in public perception, yet finishing first where it truly mattered, impacting lives directly, meaningfully, and enduringly, a reward invisible to many but deeply satisfying to those who lived it and those who benefited from it. The night deepened, and the city took on a hushed, expectant quality, the occasional car passing, the faint hum of distant traffic, and the whisper of wind moving through alleys providing a subtle soundtrack to the quiet tension of a world perpetually on the cusp of unpredictability, and Dwayne, making his way home from the diner, felt the familiar blend of alertness and fatigue, the mental scanning of surroundings, anticipation of potential crises, and readiness to intervene flowing as naturally as breathing, a rhythm he had cultivated over countless days filled with minor emergencies, unrequested aid, and the perpetual dance of responsibility and empathy. Marcus, ever present, narrating each step with hushed energy, observed the subtle nuances, the flicker of shadows, the reflections on wet streets, the cadence of footsteps, and Dwayne, though focused on the immediate reality, found reassurance in the parallel narrative, a lens that reframed ordinary observation into the significance of attentiveness and readiness, the subtle artistry of seeing patterns before they became problems. As they passed a small community center, the door swung open and a group of teenagers spilled onto the sidewalk, laughing, carrying sports equipment, some oblivious to their surroundings, and Dwayne noted the potential hazards: uneven pavement, scattered trash, wet patches, the likelihood of minor accidents or escalated conflicts, and he moved instinctively, stepping slightly forward, voice calm but firm, "Watch your step, be careful," gestures minimal but deliberate, a stabilizing presence in the flux of adolescent energy and urban unpredictability. Marcus, whispering dramatically from behind, narrated the scenario as a scene from a suspense thriller, the potential for injury heightened, tension almost palpable, and Dwayne, unmoved by embellishment, concentrated on real-time mitigation, guiding movement, ensuring no collisions, subtly adjusting actions to prevent accidents while maintaining the autonomy of the teenagers, demonstrating the balance between intervention and respect, vigilance and empathy. A few blocks further, a small altercation began between a street vendor and a pedestrian over space on a narrow sidewalk, voices rising, movement escalating, and Dwayne, already assessing potential outcomes, intervened smoothly, establishing space, calming tempers with precise language, and redirecting energy toward resolution, the subtle authority of presence more effective than raised voices or gestures, reinforcing his role as mediator, observer, and practical problem solver in the unpredictable flow of city life. Marcus, in hushed tones, transformed the scene into a narrative of tension and heroism, noting Dwayne's measured approach, the subtle interventions, the deft negotiation of conflict, and Dwayne, allowing the dramatization but remaining focused, ensured outcomes were tangible, no one injured, voices calmed, order restored, dignity maintained. Continuing toward home, Dwayne noted a small figure slouch against a corner, hood drawn, movement hesitant, clearly unsettled, and he approached cautiously, voice gentle yet confident. "Hey there, are you okay? Need help getting somewhere safe?" The figure's initial tension eased as Dwayne assessed, offering guidance, connecting the individual with appropriate resources, ensuring safe passage home or to a shelter, a pattern of intervention reflecting empathy, calm authority, and procedural knowledge, the quiet heroism of attentiveness applied to human need. Marcus, recording the encounter in whispered commentary, emphasized stakes, risks, and resolution, dramatizing the significance while Dwayne focused entirely on practical outcomes, safety, reassurance, and positive impact, illustrating the continuous interplay of invisible heroism and observed narrative. By the time they reached Dwayne's apartment, the night had grown colder, wind whispering through alleys, lights reflecting off damp streets, and Dwayne, keys in hand, paused to reflect, noting the cumulative weight of the day, small crises averted, interventions executed with patience and skill, minor disasters prevented, emotional and physical harm mitigated, and yet all largely invisible to the broader world, the quiet satisfaction of responsibility fulfilled quietly sustaining him. Inside, the apartment was still, warm from the radiator, familiar and comforting, and Dwayne allowed himself to sit, removing coat and boots, reflecting on the day's sequence of events, the minor fire in the alley earlier, the lost bag, the construction site, small interventions, all seemingly ordinary yet threaded together in a complex tapestry of attentive action, the quiet heroism that ran counter to the noise, recognition, and spectacle celebrated elsewhere. Marcus, notebook perched on his lap, summarized the day with dramatic flair, voice rising and falling to mark tension and triumph, and Dwayne, half smiling, half exhausted, allowed the narrative to unfold, recognizing that the dramatization was both a mirror and a magnifying lens, amplifying the significance of actions that mattered most in direct, meaningful outcomes, and underscoring the interplay of chaos, attention, and intervention that framed the quiet architecture of everyday heroism. The phone rang suddenly, sharp in the stillness, and Dwayne answered with calm precision. A new concern relayed. A neighbor reported an unusual noise, potentially a minor structural issue in the building, no immediate danger, but warranting inspection to prevent escalation. Dwayne organized next steps, advised caution, and prepared for a measured response, balancing vigilance with practical action, the familiar pattern of attention, intervention, and responsibility unfolding seamlessly. Marcus, ever attentive, narrated the process: inspection, assessment, mitigation, resolution, each step framed as a climax of tension and heroism, yet Dwayne's focus remained entirely practical, guiding outcomes toward safety and reassurance, minimizing risk, and preserving calm. Once the minor issue was resolved, with no harm done and no escalation necessary, Dwayne returned to his apartment, settling at his desk, reflecting on cumulative lessons, the importance of readiness, the power of calm intervention, the subtle but profound effect of consistent, principled action in shaping outcomes, the reinforcement of community through presence and attentiveness, and the realization that quiet heroism, while rarely lauded publicly, created tangible, lasting impact in ways more meaningful than spectacle or recognition could provide. Marcus, notebook closed for the moment, leaned back, satisfied with the day's narrative, and Dwayne allowed a moment of respite, stretching, breathing, noting the pattern of fatigue mingled with satisfaction, the quiet acknowledgement that responsibility fulfilled faithfully was reward enough, and that being a nice guy, acting with integrity, empathy, and readiness, often meant finishing last in recognition, yet finishing first in practical consequence, influence, and moral consistency, the measure of a life well lived resting not in applause but in the enduring, unheralded effect of thoughtful, principled action. As midnight approached, Dwayne allowed himself a final walk around his small apartment, checking windows, ensuring locks were secure, the soft hum of the city below a comforting background to reflection, and he noted the interwoven pattern of attention, intervention, and calm, the continuous engagement with the unpredictable world, the quiet victories, the minor crises averted, the people helped, and the profound satisfaction that came from knowing that each small act, each carefully considered intervention, each exercise of empathy and skill, cumulatively shaped a safer, more stable, more humane world, even if invisible to the majority of observers, and in that knowledge, he allowed a rare, unguarded smile, acknowledging the quiet yet enduring power of integrity, consistency, and principled action in a city that rarely paused to notice, yet relied daily on the presence of those willing to act rightly. The city had settled into the deepest hours of night, the streets empty save for the occasional hum of a distant car or the soft rustle of wind through alleyways, and Dwayne, finally home after a long day of interventions, quiet heroics, and unrelenting vigilance, felt the familiar mixture of exhaustion and fulfillment, a deep, bone-level fatigue tempered by the satisfaction of knowing that lives had been spared minor disasters, conflicts had been mitigated, and moments of fear, frustration, or danger had been softened, perhaps unnoticed by the broader world, yet profoundly meaningful to those directly affected. Marcus, perched nearby on the couch with notebook closed but eyes bright, had shifted from constant narration to quiet observation, aware that even the hero needed space to reflect, recharge, and absorb the cumulative lessons of the day, and Dwayne allowed the silence to settle, the rhythm of the apartment, the soft hum of the radiator, and the occasional distant city noise, creating a canvas for contemplation, assessment, and quiet planning for the days yet to come. He moved to the window, hands resting lightly on the sill, gazing out over the glistening streets, reflections of streetlights dancing in puddles, creating an impressionistic mosaic of urban life, a living city simultaneously beautiful, chaotic, and precarious, and he considered the cumulative weight of his interventions, the minor fire, the lost bag returned, construction site stabilized, teenagers guided, small altercations diffused, frightened or disoriented individuals assisted, cats rescued, doors unlocked, spills cleaned, guidance offered, and countless subtle gestures of attentiveness and care, each one a thread in the vast, intricate tapestry of life, largely invisible to most yet creating real, tangible consequences for safety, well-being, and reassurance. Marcus, breaking the quiet, whispered softly, "You know, Dwayne, sometimes I think the world doesn't realize how much depends on you, how many crises you quietly prevent, how many lives you touch without anyone knowing," and Dwayne, acknowledging the statement with a faint smile, replied quietly, "It's not about recognition. It's about doing what's right, when it matters, and accepting that most people may never notice. That's enough." Marcus nodded, understanding more than he would ever articulate, that the essence of heroism, at least in Dwayne's life, was invisible, relational, and principled, not performative, and the two sat in companionable silence, letting the city breathe around them, aware that tomorrow would bring a new set of challenges, unpredictable and inevitable, requiring the same blend of observation, judgment, empathy, and action that had defined today. Just as the first moments of near-dawn light began to soften the darkness at the horizon, the phone rang, cutting the stillness sharply, and Dwayne answered, voice calm, composed, ready for whatever minor or urgent concern awaited. On the line, a neighbor reported a minor leak in an apartment several blocks away, no immediate danger, but an issue that required attention to prevent escalation, and Dwayne immediately began organizing instructions, mentally calculating steps, resources, and contingencies, even as Marcus leaned forward with a small grin, whispering, another call, another life saved without fanfare, classic Dwayne. After ensuring guidance and temporary mitigation were in place, Dwayne hung up, exhaling slowly, reflecting on the paradox of his life, constant engagement, perpetual vigilance, invisible heroism, and the quiet, steady satisfaction derived from the direct, meaningful impact of his actions. He moved to the kitchenette, preparing a cup of tea, hands steady, movements deliberate, allowing the warmth of the beverage to permeate the fatigue of body and mind, and he considered the patterns of his day, the rhythm of interventions, and the cumulative effects of attentive, principled action, each small decision, each measured response, each exercise of empathy, calm, and authority had collectively preserved safety, dignity, and stability in the lives of others, an unseen architecture of influence, responsibility, and quiet courage that formed the essence of his being. Marcus, notebook still on the couch, finally spoke, voice quiet, reflective. Do you ever think people realize how much goes unseen? How much effort, patience, and courage you put into the smallest details? Dwayne, sipping his tea, considered the question, then said simply, no. And that's okay. The impact is real, even if it isn't noticed. That's what matters. The weight of responsibility settled into a familiar calm, a blend of humility and purpose, as he contemplated the invisible chain of cause and effect his actions created, the subtle but enduring consequences of attentiveness and intervention, the quiet shaping of a safer, more humane environment, and the reaffirmation that the life of principle, patience, and moral courage, though often finishing last in recognition, always finished first where it truly counted, in the tangible, meaningful difference made to the lives of others. Hours passed in contemplative quiet, the city outside gradually stirring with the first sounds of early morning, deliveries, and distant conversations, and Dwayne reflected on the continuity of his role, each day a cycle of vigilance, intervention, observation, empathy, and reflection, each night a time to process, recharge, and internalize lessons, and each moment, no matter how small, an opportunity to act with principle, consistency, and care. By the time he prepared for sleep, the apartment settled into stillness, the soft hum of the radiator the only accompaniment to his thoughts, and Dwayne allowed himself a rare moment of complete mental rest, knowing that tomorrow would inevitably bring new challenges, yet trusting in his ability to navigate them with skill, patience, and the quiet heroism that had defined him all along. Marcus, reclining on the couch with a satisfied sigh, whispered, another day, another round of quiet victories, Dwayne. Maybe the world will notice someday. Dwayne, settling beneath the covers, smiled faintly, the thought of recognition irrelevant, the pattern of impact undeniable, the satisfaction of principled action sufficing entirely, and as he drifted towards sleep, he carried with him the assurance that in a world often blind to subtle courage, in a city that rewarded spectacle over substance, the steady, consistent, thoughtful, and empathetic actions of one nice guy could create ripples of safety, relief, and humanity far beyond what the I could see, proving that finishing last in public estimation was never a measure of real worth, and that quiet heroism, integrity, and care left an indelible mark where it truly mattered.